If I may please call the council meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, it is 7 o'clock. We are in council chambers for our regular council meeting. Council, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as has been circulated? No amendments tonight. No, are there? One amendment. I'm sorry. Okay, Council. Council, can I have to do the old Cheech and Chong class thing. Class! We have an amendment to the agenda. We have one delegation over the limit. If someone would care to move that, we need 2/3. Councillor Gartner, you're moving. Councillor Thompson seconding. Requires 2/3. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so we could all put our hands up, please, if we're interested. You can't hear? Linda, can you turn the volume in the chamber up just a wee bit, please? Okay, Council, it's been moved and seconded. We need 2/3. All in favor, please. Contrary, carried. Council declarations of pecuniary interest, please. General nature thereof. Seeing none, we have 3 presentations this evening. We will start off with Mr. Mike Walters, the Chief Administrative Officer of the best conservation authority in all of Ontario. And that's purely objective. If you could please introduce yourself, sir, and you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and members of the audience. My name is Mike Walters. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer at the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. And I'm here tonight to seek support for the Lake Simcoe Phosphorus Offset Program, probably one of the most important programs we will be initiating over the next 10 to 30 years. This program began in 2012 with a study that was conducted with ourselves, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, all of our watershed municipalities, members of the community, and the building industry. It was over concern of impact associated with continued urbanization and the impact that that has on water quality in Lake Simcoe. And after 2 years of collaboration and consultation, we finally came up with a final report. The reason that we need to develop a phosphorus offsetting program is clear. We're not achieving our goals with respect to Lake Simcoe. Our goal is to get the lake level down for total phosphorus to 44 metric tons, which is the dotted line on the graph. Right now, we're currently averaging around 91 tons. So we have a large deficit that we have to achieve, but we're not doing it. In fact, the loads are starting to go back up. And that's as a result of a lot of the climate change, urbanization, and changes in land use practice. And we're going to see a lot more growth. Over the next 20 odd years, we're going to see at least almost a 50% increase in urban area within the watershed. This while the lake already has a problem. So how do we best mitigate the impacts of new growth as well as control impacts from existing growth? Last year, in the fall of last year, we initiated new stormwater control guidelines. And with uncontrolled growth, we would be looking at an increase of around 15 metric tons of phosphorus going into Lake Simcoe. As a result of conventional practices that were the common practice, you can cut that in half. We introduced something new through our member municipalities and again the build industry, something called better site design, and it actually cuts that phosphorus load again by half. So we're looking at an increase based on all the growth that could occur of around 3.74 metric tons. Now, if we implement phosphorus offsetting, it's like development charges for phosphorus for the environment to the build industry. We can retrofit enough urban fabric to actually see a reduction of 10.6 metric tons. And that would be a reduction going forward in phosphorus load of 6.9 tons based on all the current proposed growth. So what is phosphorus offsetting? It's not a trade. We're not allowing growth to occur. This is all approved growth that has already been approved in places to grow. It's in your official plans. It's going to happen. What it is it's a requirement that developers actually look at reducing their phosphorus load. And where they can't, there would be a cash in lieu payment that would go to the authority that we would then use with our municipalities to retrofit existing urban areas and reduce phosphorus from those urban areas. And this is just a snapshot of the city of Barrie. The red areas represent uncontrolled urban area. That means that all the runoff from that urban fabric in the city of Barrie runs uncontrolled into Kempenfelt Bay. The yellow area has quantity control but no quality control. And the green area is the new area that is under our regulation, which is required to do both quality and quantity. So as I said, this is something we're looking at for new development or redevelopment. And what it is based on is something called the Zero Phosphorus Export Policy. So this goes beyond the current requirement that we have for stormwater management. The Zero Export Policy is the only basis that we have for achieving a net reduction in phosphorus in the next 20 to 30 years. And this policy would provide an incentive and innovation within the development community to do a better job of stormwater management moving forward as well. Essentially, how it works is there will be offset ratios applied. So a developer would essentially be required to reach zero phosphorus from all new development. And I'm happy to say that there's a number of developments that we've been working with that are getting close to that zero. Where they can't meet the zero, they would be required to offset financially for the difference. That money would then be used, as I said, to identify and to fix stormwater retrofits within existing urban fabric where the stormwater is uncontrolled. The ratio right now is set at 2.5 to 1, and that's because it's much, much more expensive to reduce and fix existing phosphorus areas, and there's a lot of uncertainty associated with going into an urban fabric and trying to retrofit stormwater versus doing it first time out with new build. This is a site in Newmarket we're very excited about. It is getting more than 85% phosphorus reduction associated with what the stormwater controls that they put in place. The other thing is we have to recognize that even the best phosphorus controls have a life cycle. And stormwater ponds, for example, which are the most conventional stormwater control, fill up over time. When they fill up over time, they need to be maintained or they lose the effectiveness of reducing sediment and phosphorus. So we're actually looking at this program to assist our municipalities with respect to a one-time program for about a 5-year period with maintenance at 50 cents on the dollar. The retrofits would be covered at 100%. The offsets for maintenance, because maintenance is a requirement of the municipalities through environmental compliance approval, that would be at a cost share rather than the 100%. To help the build industry, who we've had lots of consultation with, they had asked if we could develop a tool which they could use to actually calculate what the phosphorus offset would be. And that's what we've done. We've worked in partnership with two other authorities, the Toronto Region Conservation Authority and the Credit Valley Conservation Authority, and Golder and Associates Consultants. And we've created a stormwater phosphorus tool that allows them to place scenarios and look at the best approach for stormwater management on their site, as well as it'll calculate the phosphorus requirement that they would have to offset. There's a process and governance associated with this. We have the support of the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Your mayor and myself visited with him last year, and we garnered his support. So he will be looking at potentially even creating regulation that would support or underpin this program moving forward. The way it would work now is a plan of subdivision would come in. We would look at it with the proponent, as we already do for stormwater management. We would identify the opportunities on the site. We would identify what the phosphorus offset would be. They would then, at the plan of subdivision, pay for that, and we would go ahead and start approving projects to undertake the works required to offset the phosphorus. These decisions would be ratified by our board of directors. We would have a working group or a stakeholder group, the same group primarily that helped probably undertake the study, to look at helping review and approve projects for our board of directors, and the board of directors would ratify them. All of the information would be put on a website, so it's open and transparent, and the offsets would be recorded in our Lake Simcoe meetings for the board of directors. As well, we've agreed to annual independent audits of both the financial side, but also the phosphorus budget side. Tracking and reporting is, as I said, one of the most important things. There's other key performance indicators we're going to use as well. There are a lot of other benefits associated with this program besides just stormwater management and phosphorus. Things like reducing flooding, building resilience to climate change. These are all ancillary benefits associated with the program. So as I said, there'll be minutes of our board of directors meetings, the published annual statements and audited statements, as well as any of the offsetting details would be provided on a georeferenced web platform. You could actually go click on the dot, see what the project was, see where the trade came from, see how much money was put towards that particular project. So how it would work really quickly, I know I'm taking a lot of time here. Plan of subdivision comes in within an existing urban area. It's another, you would look for those retrofits within the same catchment area. Essentially, the offset would be calculated, the monies would trade hands, and we would work with our municipal partner to initiate those retrofits. And based on the zero export, payment would be agreed upon at the Municipal Planning Act stage when the condition of draft plan approval came in. The revenue, as I said, the revenue collected would primarily go to urban retrofits. There's a small 8 to 12% administration cost for the audit and other monitoring associated with the program. Benefits would be realized on a catchment basis. And just by way of example, here's a 9.2 hectare site, 176 lots. It would generate about 13.8 kilograms of phosphorus per year. Based on doing a bunch of stormwater practices, if they could reduce 75%, they'd be down to, they'd essentially control 10.3. They would need to offset 3.5. That 3.5 is times the 2.5 offset ratio. And the cost per kilogram reduction is estimated at $35,000. So the trade for that one site equates to $308,000. Sorry. Or if you put it into number of lots, about $175 or $1,750 per lot. So the industry has been well consulted in this program. They are on side. They can live with it. It's the cost of doing business in Lake Simcoe. They understand that the alternative is potentially growth could not occur in some areas because of assimilative capacity. So just in closing, we are looking for the municipality's support. We have copies of draft resolutions. I've been to a number of councils already. This is my fifth council presentation. And we are looking to see whether or not you would like to extend a staff person to sit on the offsetting project working group. So we'll be formally asking for your support moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for the presentation. Council, first may I have a motion to receive Mr. Walters' presentation, please? Councillors Tom and Humphreys. Any comments or questions for Mr. Walters with respect to phosphorus offsetting? See, Councillor Gardner?
You don't have an easy job.
Careful. How do you want him to respond to that?
I don't want you to respond to that. I don't know if you were here last year or somebody else from the Conservation Authority. I thought we were doing pretty well with phosphorus. So this is really serious news. Has this, I'm not clear, the zero export policy, that's already been approved? This is in place?
Mike?
He would like to see the support of all of the member municipalities moving forward. We've been in constant contact with the build industry because they're the individuals who will end up having to pay the fee. And I'm happy to say that the building industry in our watershed is extremely good to work with. They understand the issue that's at stake, and they've come to the table. So we're really pleased.
Councillor?
So you're asking municipalities to support in fact, the protection of Lake Simcoe, and it's been happening for a long time through trying to reduce the phosphorus. So you're just asking us to support the policy that you're proposing that the developers will pay for if they want to have growth.
Mike?
The simplest way.
Councillor? Any other speakers, please? Councillor Kim?
Are you going to ask? I'll ask if you don't want to.
Councillor Kim?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Wallace, for coming out today. When the LSRCA drew up the proposal. Was there a scenario where how you would move forward should Build decline the recommendation from the LSRC? Okay.
Michael?
No, actually, we started with the build industry first. They were an integral part of the entire process from the study phase right on through now till the operation and proposed implementation.
Councillor?
And just finally, once the working group is in order, what's the time frame that we're looking at in order to get this program off and running?
Through you, Your Worship, we're hopefully trying to get letters of support by July from all the stakeholder groups, which includes Build, all the municipalities. We've already got support of the province, First Nations, and regional municipalities as well. We are holding a public information center May 29th to get support from non-government organizations. And the intent is, once we have those letters, take a report to our board of directors for final approval in July. There would be a transition period before implementation would actually occur to allow the industry time to ramp up and start using the tools that we've developed. So we're probably looking at about a three-month transition period, which we do for most of our policies at the Conservation Authority. And after that, hopefully by October, we could be collecting money to undertake works in 2018.
Councillor?
Wallace?
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we want as council to approve this and appoint a staff member, through you actually to Mr. Clerk, would we do this under new business? Or would we be asking for a staff report?
Councillor Gardner, I think we would wait until we receive the communication from the Conservation Authority, which will set out the parameters.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Walters, thank you for coming. Appreciate the presentation. The move to go from online ponds to offline ponds, especially when it relates to the Highland Gate area, I'm just wondering, does that also have to do with the phosphorus offsetting program, or is that a totally separate issue?
Okay, just a
issue?
second here. Online, offline ponds are going to be a subject of discussion in a couple of weeks, but...
It's more of a yes or no.
Yeah, Mr. Walters?
They're not the same, no.
Any other speakers? Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a quick question on the draining of Lake Simcoe. Does it drain into another body of water, or is it landlocked? Or?
Lake Simcoe drains into Lake Couchiching and then out to the Trent Severn, the Severn Sound. So it actually drains into Greater Georgian Bay through Severn Sound.
If there's no other comments, I will ask for the vote. All in favor of receiving the presentation, please? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, Michael, for coming out. We do appreciate it. Our next presentation is Mr. Ron Weiss. Ron, come up, introduce yourself, and you have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Ron Weiss. I live at 37 Larmont Street. Good evening, Mayor Daw, members of council, town staff, and guests. I'm here tonight as chair of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame Board of Governors, and I'm pleased to introduce the chair of our induction committee, Stephen Forsey, who will announce the 2017 Aurora Sports Hall of Fame inductees. Before I do, I'd like to welcome two honored members here tonight, honored member Lowell McElhenney and honored member Alan Dean, who are in their back here, so welcome. Let me get to the business at hand here. I want to thank Stephen for the work that he's done with the nomination committee, who secured numerous highly valued nominations. Stephen also provided the oversight and worked with our selection panel, who applied the selection criteria according to our policies, and then proposed a number of worthy candidates to the induction committee. He also led that induction committee, who made the motion to the Board of Governors to induct a very worthy slate in 2017 into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. The Board of Governors has now made its decision, and we look forward to the induction ceremony in the fall. I ask Stephen Forsey to come forward to make the announcements. Steve?
Behind every great man. There's a woman with a clicker.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mayor Daw, members of council, and town staff for the opportunity this evening to present the 2017 Aurora Sport Hall of Fame inductees. Before I begin, I want to thank some people who have been instrumental in allowing me to be able to bring forward this slate of inductees for the 5th annual induction ceremony. First of all, Ron Weiss, President of the Aurora Sport Hall of Fame. Thank you, Ron, for your continued leadership and in this endeavor and many other sporting events in town. Thank you. And Nancy, the Executive Director of the Aurora Sport Hall of Fame. It has been great having your assistance in all the behind-the-scenes work that is necessary for this process to happen. It's been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you. I also want to make mention of the selection panel, and while they remain anonymous, we are very appreciative of the many volunteer hours that were spent scrutinizing and reviewing the nominations that were put forward. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go. In the athlete category, I am honored to present cricket player William James Fleury. This selection is also historically significant, as well as the son of Aurora's founder, Joseph Fleury. Prior to 1900, the sport of cricket was Canada's most popular sport, and William was an accomplished player possessing a complete game from a very young age. His skills were noticed, and at the age of 22, he was chosen to represent Canada on a tour of the UK, where they performed quite well. He continued to play as an adult, and in 1910 was again asked to lead another UK tour, which was the last significant Canadian cricket team to compete on the international stage. Second inductee. In the athlete category, I am honored to present a hockey player, Mike Palmateer. Mike made his debut for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 1976-77 season, and over a career of 356 games spanning almost 10 years, he became a fan favorite and was recently honored as one of the team's top 100 players. The Palmateer family lived in Aurora for almost 30 years, during which time they were an integral part of our community, raising their children in addition to a couple of local business endeavors and some coaching with the Aurora Tigers Junior A Hockey Club. Third inductee. In the athlete category, I am honored to present swimmer Dan Thompson. A longtime Aurora resident, Dan was at one time one of Canada's best swimmers, holding a number of individual records. He had been selected as captain of the 1980 Olympic team, but unfortunately was not able to compete in the Moscow Olympics due to the boycott. Since retiring from national swimming, he has continued his career with the Aurora Master Ducks Swim Club here in town. Our final inductee, also in the athlete category, is hockey player Robert Bob Wall. Bob played his bantam and midget hockey in Aurora in the late 1950s and was part of a team that won the All-Ontario Championship one year. In 1962, he was a member of the Hamilton team that went on to win the Memorial Cup Championship, and a few years later, he was part of the Pittsburgh team that won the Calder Cup Championship for the American Hockey League, which is quite an accomplishment. If I'm not mistaken, there are very few individuals that have done both of those. In 1967, he was a very high draft pick of the Los Angeles Kings and would later become their first captain. He would go on to play 322 NHL games and would finish his career in the World Hockey Association with the Edmonton Oilers before returning to reside in Aurora and do some coaching as well. So those are our 4 inductees. As has been the case in the past 4 years, in the next couple of weeks and months, we will begin celebrating the accomplishments of these 4 individuals, culminating in the induction ceremony on Wednesday, November 8th, and I ask you all to save that in your calendar, please, at St. Andrew's College. We hope that you will be able to join us for what promises to be a very special evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forsey. First of all, may I have a motion to receive the presentation? Councillors Thompson and Maracas. Any comments or questions for Steve? Touch your button, please. Press your button. Councillor Humphries, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for announcing the nominees this year. And so excited. It's an incredible event, and just recognizing all the talent here in Aurora. The significant contribution to sports here and around the world is just incredible. And to learn, every year is just incredible what our town has in terms of again, sports in the world and the impact that they've made. So looking forward to it. Thank you very much. It's a great event, and it's so exciting. So I can't wait to hear, to see it all come to fruition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Any other speakers, please? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Steve, for coming out. I thought I'd give you an opportunity for self-promotion. If members of the public would like to learn more about past winners, where could they find more information?
To do that would be go to our website, ashof.com, or CA, I think. It's actually Aurora SHOF. Okay, there you go.
Say, Mr. Forsey, could you say that again so people at home can hear it?
Aurora SHOF.ca.
Okay.
You've got to say it for the microphone, Steve.
Oh, Aurora HOF.
Nancy?
Just going to do it.
Go ahead.
Actually, I do think there's a redirect on the ashof.ca, but if you go to ashof.com, it'll go to the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. So if you go ashof.ca, it does come to our official website, which is Aurora SHOF.ca.
Thank you.
I'm not the webmaster. I just look after the inductees. So
Compartmentalization, right?
absolutely.
Very important. Michael. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I was thinking you were going to direct everybody to the Stronach Recreational Complex to see the the display and see all the information, but the website's also a good opportunity as well.
As well.
Thank you. Seeing no others, all in favor of receipt? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate you coming out. Our last presentation is it's a joint presentation with Franco DeMarco and Shelley Ware of our Parks and Rec and Culture and et cetera. That's it? Department. Franco.
Daw and members of council. My name is Franco DeMarco. I'm the Recreation Supervisor for Community Programs with the Town of Aurora. I'm here tonight to speak to you about June is Recreation and Parks Month, a great initiative that we in the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services take pride in and are proud to celebrate. Established in 2005, June is Recreation and Parks Month is an annual community mobilization movement that takes place in parks, schools, recreation centers, and neighborhoods across Ontario. The Town of Aurora is a proud ambassador for this great Parks, Recreation Ontario initiative. By celebrating June as Recreation and Parks Month, we are able to promote recreation programs and park facilities within the community. Each year through this initiative, the Town of Aurora successfully engages hundreds of participants in activities that increase physical activity, promote healthy eating, and encourage safe play. 2017 provides a special opportunity as we celebrate Canada's 150th birthday and the many benefits of parks and recreation in our community. The Town of Aurora is very fortunate to have many great indoor and outdoor facilities, including several parks and trails offering a wide variety of recreation opportunities. June is Recreation and Parks Month allows us to showcase these wide variety of programs and services that the town offers and gives us an opportunity to create awareness and educate the public on the value of recreation and parks in the community. We know that participation in both structured and unstructured recreational, sport, and cultural activities improves physical, psychological, and emotional health. It can reduce rates of some types of chronic diseases, including diabetes and heart disease. Recreation services foster social, intellectual, physical, and emotional development. Participation in recreation, sport, and cultural activities reduces reliance on healthcare and other social services. Parks, trails, recreation programs, and facilities are all key factors in strengthening communities through social interaction, volunteerism, civic pride, and aesthetics. So what do Ontarians say? According to Parks and Recreation Ontario, 98% of Ontarians believe that recreation and parks are essential services that benefit their entire community. 97% of Ontario households use local parks, and 77% agree that recreation reduces crime and vandalism. So a full listing of our events can be found on our website, aurora.ca/Recreation and Parks Month. Our June is Recreation and Parks Month schedule includes a full listing of all the activities that are available throughout the month. I'd like to highlight a couple of our upcoming events now. So first off, we have our Seniors Information and Active Living Fair, which takes place at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex on Thursday, June 8th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will have over 35 exhibitors, 12 on-stage fitness and active living demonstrations, and 3 health-related seminars. From 11 to 2, the community is invited to a free barbecue hosted by MPP Chris Ballard. This event is brought to you in partnership by the Town of Aurora, Club Aurora Fitness Center, Activate Aurora, the Aurora Seniors Association, the Older Adult Centers Association of Ontario, and the Ministry of Seniors Affairs. Secondly, I'd like to point out our upcoming Aurora Playlist Challenge, which will take place on Saturday, June 10th at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex from 10:30 to 12:30. This event gives families the opportunity to come out and try over 10 different activities from the Participaction 150 playlist, the ultimate list of Canada's favorite activities. So this is how you can get involved. Pick up your Junior's Recreation and Parks Month passport as of June 1st at either the Aurora Family Leisure Complex, Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex, or Town Hall through Access Aurora. Then visit the Town of Aurora's website for a full listing of the various activities taking place throughout the month of June. We have something for all ages and abilities, and the best part is that most of these activities are free. There are 4 types of activities, each coinciding with your passport: sport, fitness, parks and trails, and social activities. Record the activities you've completed on your passport, and once you've completed all 4 types of activities, submit your completed passport by June 30th to be eligible to win a $50 credit for Town of Aurora recreation programs. For those that want to get involved but don't want to or are unable to come in person to pick up their passport, we've also included a printable option for that passport online, which participants can print on their own and bring to these various activities. In addition, we would like to see how the community plans on celebrating Recreation and Parks Month on their own. So submit any photos related to June's Recreation and Parks Month to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using our hashtag AuroraJRPM17. Those who submit their photos to us on social media will be eligible to have their photo published in the upcoming Aurora Parks, Recreation, and Culture Program Guide. Thanks to the support of corporate communications, we've successfully developed a comprehensive communication plan, which will utilize many different tactics and advertising channels for this initiative. So on behalf of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services Department, we invite Mayor Daw and all of Council to come out and participate in all the fun activities we have planned this month. Mayor Daw, maybe we'll see you busting a move at our upcoming ballroom dance party. Thank you for your time. We hope to see you out this month celebrating recreation and parks with us.
Thank you, Franco.
Good evening, Mayor Daw and members of council. My name is Shelley Ware, Recreation Supervisor with Special Events. Festivals and Events Ontario produces the top 100 festivals and events list. The events that make this list are considered to be exceptional in the industry. It was a year ago that I stood here before you presenting the top 100 festival and events list for Aurora's Haunted Forest. For 2016, approximately 138 festivals and events of all kinds from various corners of Ontario were evaluated by an independent panel of industry specialists. There were only 3 festivals or events within all of York Region that were recognized this year. 1 from the city of Vaughan and 2 from Aurora. Fortunately, Aurora's Haunted Forest was recognized, but also was Aurora's tree lighting ceremony, which made the list for the very first time. Canadian Halloween celebrations continue to get bigger every year. Halloween is now Canada's second biggest holiday besides Christmas in terms of consumer spending and public participation. Creating an event with this theme is unique considering the few alike events one can attend. Aurora's Haunted Forest is a community and volunteer-driven event, and it is one of the most talked about special events that provides spectacular excitement for all ages. Aurora's most anticipated Halloween event takes costumes to a higher realm with an evening full of captivating scares, thrills, and festive fun. Aurora's Haunted Forest is a great example that actively engages both the volunteer community and the community as a whole. Approximately 1,540 volunteer hours were put into this event this year alone. The event works with many community organizations to make displays, set up, tear down, facilitate it, you name it. Huge thanks is directed to the Aurora Scouts, the Aurora Seniors Association, Canadian Children's Theatre Company, Marquee Theatrical Productions, the Optimist Club of Aurora, and Aurora's Youth Engagement Committee. Festivals and Events Ontario not only has recognized the exceptionality of this event, but they have also recognized the invaluable efforts of Greg Knuth, who is a resident, a town employee, and a very, and I mean very dedicated volunteer for this event. This event is a labor of love for Greg and his family. I would like to ask Mayor Daw to present Greg with his award from Festivals and Events Ontario. Aurora's tree lighting ceremony started off 12 years ago as a small gathering at Town Hall and has grown into a huge gathering spreading out into multiple locations from the Town Hall courtyard into the Senior Center and now into the Petch House. Similar to Aurora's Haunted Forest, there are several partnerships that have been fostered to make this event so memorable. Staff applaud the Aurora Seniors Association, the Canadian Children's Theatre Company, the Northridge Community Church, and the Salvation Army Kettle Drive. The evening starts with the festive caroling led by the Salvation Army Brass Band. This event provides excitement for children as they get to see Santa's float up close and then the Jolly Man himself. The fire juggler is also mesmerizing, not only for the kids but also for the adults. Unlike many similar events, Santa does not have headlining status at this one. The limelight is shared with Mrs. Claus and her famous reading, and Santa's reindeer looking on eagerly while posing for countless selfies all evening. The Canadian Children's Theatre Company brings famous stories we grew up with to life. This year, these young great actors brought Frosty the Snowman to the stage. This theme was carried out into the games and activities that were available all evening. Festivals and Events Ontario has also recognized the artistic efforts of Jennifer Martin, who is the artistic director with the Canadian Children's Theatre Company. Jennifer is also a dedicated volunteer and contributor to Aurora's Haunted Forest. I'd like to ask Mayor Daw to present Jennifer with her award from the Festivals and Events Ontario. The events that the town produces are not only made possible by the commitment and continued support from you, Mayor Daw, and each member of council. Special events are celebrations that bring people together. They turn a bunch of houses into homes and they create communities. Your continued support enables the Special Events Division to deliver innovative, high quality, and must-attend special events with solid community partnerships. Tonight, with tremendous pride, I would like to ask Al Downey, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services, to present Mayor Daw with the Festivals and Events Ontario Awards welcoming Aurora's Haunted Forest and Aurora's Tree Lighting Ceremony into the Top 100 list for 2017. Thank you very much.
Shelley, thank you very much. First of all, motion to receive, please. Presentation, Councillor Peary, Councillor Humphreys, and I've got Councillors Maracas, Peary, and Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Shelley, and Franco yourself, as well. Thank you for the presentation. Shelley, I just didn't get, how many years has the Haunted Forest been running?
It's, we're going into our 11th with Haunted Forest, 12th with tree lighting.
Thank you. Yeah, I got the tree lighting one. So I just wanted to say how great it is to see how these events have evolved from their first year to now, and how they're being recognized, and the wonderful work that yourself and your team do. And so I just want to thank you for everything that you guys do to make these events so special for the town of Aurora. So thank you.
Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to congratulate Shelley and Alan, their whole team, for all the work they do, Franco as well. And just as an FYI, if you would like to jump up the scare factor, Halloween is on a Tuesday this year, and I'm certain that we'd all love to have our meeting out in the forest.
Perfect. Councillor Gardner.
Hi, thank you to Franco, to Shelley, as always. And I see that we've been presented with a calendar and a schedule of events, which is very extensive and very impressive. So this is on the website for our residents if they want to go online. So this is for the June Parks and Recreation Month.
Hold on, Franco.
All right. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Correct, it's all on the website. The web page went live last week, and we'll start launching all of our more formal campaigns next week. But the website has the schedule that you have, as well as the calendar in front of you.
Councillor?
Thank you very much.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first I'd like to say how important both your roles are to our community. You make living here what it is for our residents and for us. So it's more than just putting on these incredible events that you put on all year long. It's living here and getting to enjoy those. And our residents they just keep getting better and better. And there's more and more participation. And I can't thank you enough. It really is incredible. We're all excited for all the events, and it's just something for everyone to look forward to. It's an attraction for our town and our community. And I can't help but say one story. I know I'm going to bore you because I've said this before, but the very first Haunted Forest was, Shelley was new to town, and I was on the special events committee way back when, 11 years ago, with a bunch of people, and we thought, who knows what it would be like. And I was out at the front by myself. We thought it wouldn't be that, how big could it be? And there was a little till of $50 of change. And at, I don't know what time it was, 7 o'clock, line of hundreds of people. And we were charging, I think it was $4, so I had to keep giving $1 back. Anyway, long story short, it just was a great event that night. It was an incredible event, and it just is getting bigger and bigger. And so excited that it's on the Festivals and Events for Ontario recognition. And I know we're going to get people from outside of our community to enjoy it as well this year, because it's on that and it's publicized as that. So congratulations again, and thank you for all you do. It means a lot to all of us and myself. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley, for all you and your team do. I mean, certainly it's always nice to get recognition, but I know if I had a vote, I think all of the events that you and your team put on are outstanding. I think they all should be on that recognition. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Shelley, Franco, thank you very much for coming out. Ms. Martin, thank you for the work you do with the Haunted Forest, and anybody who's either been to the Haunted Forest through the cabin or perhaps maybe a certain house on Aurora Heights knows the amount of effort that Greg puts in, Greg and his family, because I've seen you out there with your wife and your son, and I think one set of parents anyways, doing an incredible job. So thank you very much. And Greg volunteers all his time to do that. So thank you very much for both of you for everything you do. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. All in favor of receipt, please. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you so much. Okay, Council, that finishes the present. Councillor Thompson wants to give you a wee bit of credit, Al. We will move into delegations, and the first delegation, which is on the additional agenda items. I don't think Mr. Barker is here. He was not. So Mr. Barker did send an email today to councilors. I don't know if it got sent to no, apparently didn't get sent. So if we could forward, one of us will forward that email to the clerk's department to receive his comments with respect to the internet voting. So I got councilors, you, that'd be Thompson and Maracas, to forward Mr. Barker's comments to the clerk. So I apologize, Mr. Clerk, I should have forwarded that email to you. So our first delegate then is Mr. Hans Hoyer, representing the Aurora Village Ratepayers Group with respect to item C1 sub R6. Mr. Hoyer, and I'll remind you, sir, if you could introduce yourself, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hans Hoyer. I live at 28 Tyler Street, and I shall not use all of the 5 minutes. Pertaining to report PBS 17025, dealing with the comprehensive zoning bylaw to be enacted, and specifically with the special exception zone regarding the maximum building height for the property at 15186 Yonge Street, the Aurora United Church, I want to reiterate. If the building height for the institutional zone for the AUC lands is grandfathered at 28 meters, then all the other provisions have to be grandfathered as well. Namely, the setbacks on all sides. Front yard, 10 meters minimum. Rear yard, 15 meters minimum. Exterior side yard, 10 meters minimum. Interior side yard, half the height of the building, not less than 4.5 meters minimum, and lot coverage 35% maximum. I understand that this may not work for the Aurora United Church. To quote Brian North, as written in the Auroran, the problem is we are limited with the amount of land we have to work with, and they are limited with how small they can go to keep this agreement with Aurora United Church. That to me means that there's not enough land area for what they want to do. The partnership does not seem to fit. It can only work with fewer units in the retirement residence. I thank you for the opportunity to express this, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyer. First of all, motion to receive and refer. Councillor Perry, Councillor Humphreys, any comments or questions for Mr. Hoyer, please? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Hoyer. All in favor of receipt, please. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Our next delegate is Mr. Cabianca with respect to the same item. Mr. Cabianca, if you could introduce yourself, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Bianca, I live at 34 Tyler Street. Again, thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak again. I would like to know why the proposed development has always been designed at heights which exceed the limits on the site. Why has it been that the applicant has assumed that it's better to ask for forgiveness later rather than to ask for permission first? The intent of 28 meters institutional height has always been to suit the height of a church steeple. The report PBS 17-025, prepared by town staff, recognizes the intent of the 28 meter as applied to institutions, and I quote, "The reduction of height would be consistent with the built form of the majority of existing institutional buildings within the town." End quote. There's no such thing as a 9-story church in Aurora. This intent is further borne out by the language of the revised zoning bylaw for institutional zoning, which limits heights to 15 meters, but adds that, quote, "It must be noted that steeples and ornamental towers would be exempted from the height provisions." End quote. Well, if Amica wishes to add a steeple or ornamental tower to the retirement residence, by all means, they should go ahead. But why is the developer allowed to pick and choose which zoning bylaws they want to apply to them and which zoning bylaws they're free to ignore? Should the applicant desire the original institutional zoning, then they should also adhere to the side yard setbacks that are attached to institutional development and require a minimum of 10 or 15 meters from the streets as noted by Hans Hoyer. Should the developer desire the revised institutional zoning, then they should be limited to a cap of 15 meters for the main building, but may build a steeple or ornamental tower that is higher than the 15-meter limit. It's unfair to the town of Aurora, the Heritage District, and every person who has to appear before Town Council with a development proposal that the applicant should be free to choose the zoning bylaws that only serve their benefit while they disregard those that they feel to be an inconvenience. This is borne out by the fact that every plan is already at 28 meters, but they haven't yet gotten that 28-meter approval. Future applicants will see the rezoning of the L-shaped area currently zoned C2 not as an extension of institutional zoning across the site, but as the changing of zoning from C2 to institutional. This is a significant precedent. The L-shaped area has never been institutional and has never been a matter of importance to the applicant, but it now suits the developer as a loophole to subvert the planning institutions of the Heritage District. It's a loophole that is borne on the backs of the residents who live in the area and the people who live in this town. The added height is there to make up a difference in rent that they now have to pay for their lease. And I'd like to point out, based on the overhead, you see the retirement residences that are run by Amica in the Greater Vancouver area, 114, 115, which opened last month, 104, 119, 84 units, 140 units, 101 units, 134 units. We get to Amica here in Aurora at 9 stories, it's 159. 7 stories, they've only reduced it by 7 units and have increased the number of memory care persons to cover up the difference. So it's pretty clear to me that they could make it feasible at a lower unit, but they wish to increase the height so that they can cover the rent that they have to cover, that they have to pay to the United Church. So I put before council this question. Now that the Aurora United Church will be a commercial enterprise akin to Our Lady of Grace who is leasing their property to Metrolinx, will the town of Aurora secure property taxes from the United Church as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cabianca. First of all, a motion to receive the presentation, receive and refer. Councillors Humphreys and Kim, any comments or questions for Mr. Cabianca, please? Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks very much for the presentation. It's much appreciated that you've come forward on behalf of the ratepayers with your concerns specifically. So if I could ask, you're not opposed, or are you opposed to a residential or some massing on the site as opposed to the height? If you could...
Mr. Cabianca?
The height and the massing, to me, go hand in hand. I mean, you can't have mass without height. So, but I have yet to see a massing which is more respectful of the Tyler and Temperance streets and the residential district that they're supposed to be transitioning from when it goes from urban to residential.
Councillor Abel?
So if it was a smaller, you wouldn't be opposed to that, what was going in there, but...
I haven't seen that yet.
Just a second.
What I have seen thus far.
We switched. That's okay. We switched the mics back and forth.
I heard you, but my question was: is you're not opposed to development there? You're opposed to what you're seeing on Tyler Street in your area, and you're here telling
Mr. Cabianca.
Yes, I'm opposed to what I'm seeing thus far.
Councillor Abel. You're welcome. No other further comments or questions? Thank you, sir. All in favor of receipt and refer the. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Our last delegation is Mr. David Hurd with respect to the Great Canadian Songbook on Vinyl. It's an update. Mr. Hurd, if you can introduce yourself, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl and members of council. Boy, Bob Wall, Mike Palmetier, and a flurry in the Hall of Fame tonight. I'm a little distracted. So thank you, David Hurd, 15 Ransom Street, Aurora. The very first song at any event, of course, is O Canada. There is no more a Canadian song than this. We stand proud, especially in celebration. Today we need to celebrate and share joy. We need to be as one, especially after Manchester, our heart goes out. United in celebration with friends, family, all ages, and inclusive. On July 22nd, we will do just that. The Great Canadian Songbook on vinyl is officially a go. July 22nd from 7 to 11 p.m., we will have a free event. Heck, there may even be an after party. Dancing, listening, food, lights, DJ, visuals, displays. In essence, it'll be a giant music party. 150 Canadian songs played from acetates, promo copies, rare pressings of reggae, rock, hip-hop, country, and new wave. We will all be the rave. This event is ours to enjoy with the residents and visitors from abroad. Aurora will celebrate the Aurora Community Center, built in 1967, the Arena of Dreams, as we call it now. There will be spot dances, we hope, with prizes donated. We are going to party like it's 1867. I mean 2017. And we encourage you to dance, or to dance and celebrate, and to dress in your favorite musical era. Not disco. Please, no disco. There will be pop-up celebrations within the community to enjoy this rare Canadian collection masked from Peter Dunn's Vinyl Museum, Jamie Vernon, author of the Canadian Pop Music Encyclopedia, and an ultra-rare collection of reggae recovered from Rick and Cindy of Storage Wars Canada fame, as well as many Aurora residents who have helped donate their vinyl collections to this event. Also there will be a lounge of historic recorded music memorabilia and a display of Canadian music artworks, many of them signed, as well as historical local visuals and music connections on a large screen that evening, including many unseen photos from old Aurora. This event stands to bring memories alive again. I can see parents dancing with their favorites, with their children. New relationships beginning as a slow dance begins to a great Canadian classic ballad, maybe April Wine, under the patio lanterns. We need to get the word out fast, as it's only 60 days away. 60 minutes in an hour and 4 hours of Canadiana, July 22nd, from 7 to 11 p.m. at our very own Aurora Community Center. Oh, and I've already thanked the great team of Town Aurora staff and sponsors who made this a reality. But to the Canadian bands themselves, you rock. Without you, we are not the Great Canadian Songbook on vinyl. A new spin on a great history of Canadian music, And I also, in closing, want to thank those people that don't get mentioned, Lisa Worth, Mariana Saavedra, Mr. Downey, Christopher Watts, Wayne Dixon, former Citizen of the Year Diane Harrison, and Shelley Ware, who all worked on this great event. Bless you for your dedication, and I thank you very much, Council, for your support on this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. If I may first have a motion to receive for information. Councillors Kim and Tom, thank you. I've got Councillor Maracas, Councillor Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Hurd, thank you for coming. It's great to hear that it's a go. Just wondering, is there a website currently, or will there be a website that people can go visit?
David?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have some content being created. Everything is going to be done, my understanding, through the Town of Aurora's website. They've already been great and instrumental in posting the commercial to get us sponsors, etc. So everything's going to be done through the town website, and we will be adding content to that on music history, etc.
Thank you. Councillor Humphries. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Marcus. Yeah. Apologies.
So thank you. I just want to also point out I won't be wearing disco. I'm either going to go with glam rock or something. I'm thinking. Yeah. So.
Freddie Mercury.
Billy Idol.
Councillor Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 80s, I have to disco all the way. Sorry, but no, I'm kidding. My question was answered. However, will there be an opportunity for volunteers who may want to help with the event? Should they contact yourself directly or staff? Or I'm sure there'll be people that would love to help out.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as you see in the everything that goes out, this is a Town of Aurora event that we are offering our services to. The town's brand will be on it. As I said, we wanted to work cohesively with the town, and all we're bringing forward is our expertise and the collection and some people who know visuals, et cetera, and great technical people like Wayne who can help out with getting those visuals up there, and Shauna White, but everything's going to be done through the town. And yes, we will be looking for volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries. Anyone else? I was going to come as Dave and Doug McKenzie with the other Canadian anthem, Take Off to the Great White North.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Bob and Doug? Bob and Doug, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Dave.
I don't know if I could add one little piece of history there. I don't know if you're aware, but Bob and Doug McKenzie, those characters were actually created by Ian Thomas, Dave Thomas's brother, of Painted Ladies fame. And that song will actually be on the playlist, of course.
Thank you, and I apologize to Dave because I have no idea who Dave McKenzie is. All in favor of receipt of Mr. Hurd's presentation, please.
Thank you.
Contrary, that's carried. Thank you very much. Well, if you're not having a little fun with the delegations, what's the point, right? Okay, Council, we'll move to the items. Now, just before we move into the consent agenda, there is a clarification on item C1 sub R1, which is the Library Square conceptual plans. A bit of a mistype in the wording of the resolution. I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the clerk to correct that. Mr. Clerk, please.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, and before I get to that, there's actually just before the meeting, there's another error from the GC report brought to my attention. I'll turn Council's attention to item from the GC report R6 regarding the additional information from the comprehensive zoning bylaw review. Clauses 1 through 4 were passed, but if Council recalls, clause number 5 was deleted, or defeated, but is still showing in the minutes. So I'm proposing to administratively remove that before the item is moved or put on the floor.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go to Mr. Elliott for the second one.
Mr. Elliott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies. Last week I was asked to put together a funding resolution with respect to the demolition and the detailed design for Library Square. I was working on two things at once, but we need to make a minor amendment to that. I used the wrong reserve fund. And this was, I was hoping that I would give you the right advice. Unfortunately, I gave you council discretionary reserve fund. It needs to be the hydro sale investment reserve fund. And the resolution to not trigger the necessary notice period or voting rules of that reserve fund, we need to identify that this is indeed a strategic plan initiative, which it is, because that was noted in the report already. So I believe the clerks have an amended resolution to share with you. So it's simply the part 4 is being changed, emphasizing that it's for this strategic plan initiative, same funding, that it be spent from the unspent interest component of the hydro sale investment reserve fund. And I apologize for my oversight last week.
If it's council's desire, the clerk can do this administratively. If not, we'll put a motion on the floor. Councilor Perry? Okay. Okay. All right, so then administratively, the clerk will take care of that. Oh, Councilor Gartner? Don't touch your button. You're on.
Mr. Mayor, I need some clarification. So the hydro sale investment reserve fund carries some parameters with it, which is public notification and I believe public input.
Mr. Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there are some very specific rules. They are outlined very clearly in the bylaw that is easily found, in my opinion, on the website. But let me just brief you on these. In the hydro sale investment reserve fund, which is the larger of the two, interest earned in a prior year may be spent on initiatives specifically identified in the strategic plan. interest unspent can be carried forward, and so you could spend quite a bit of interest at once if you wished. Interest to be spent on other than strategic plan items must follow the voting rule, but not the notice rule. And there are these two different rules. And so if you're spending principal interest, it requires a notice rule of publishing it 30 days prior to the decision. And the voting rule is a little complex, but there's a specific voting rule. So to sum up, if you're spending only interest and it's for a strategic plan initiative, which is what we're doing here tonight, there's no notice requirement and there is no special voting rule triggered.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. And by changing this administratively, is what we see before us going to be on the public record?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. If there's no other questions around that, the clerk will take care of that. And then what we'll do right now is, with respect to the consent items moved forward from last week, we'll deal with C1, sub-items R1, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Councillor Perry. Substantive, or move it over, or just a quick question? Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be honest, it depends on the answer to these two questions, whether or not I want to pull them out completely. So, through you to Mr. Marco, with regards to item R6 from last week, and I apologize to everyone for my inability to be at the meeting, and the added clause. What substantive difference will this make on the application at this point in time? Because it's my understanding that the organization has put forward their appropriate paperwork. So if they've submitted something and we've put this rule in place after it's been submitted, will this have an impact on the application?
Mr. Muno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I don't believe it'll necessarily have an impact. Council will still need to deal with their private amendment applications moving forward.
Councillor Perry.
So with regards to the first question, this won't have an impact on the application because the application was submitted before this was put in place. So I'm fine with leaving that on the consent agenda. With regards to the removal of clause 5, because it was defeated at General Committee, the old clause reads that upon enactment of the town's new comprehensive zoning bylaw by council, site-specific zoning bylaw amendments and minor variance applications will continue to be received, processed, and considered by council and the Committee of Adjustment. So my question to Mr. Amuno, Marco, because General Committee chose not to move forward with this, how let's say someone is really looking for a minor variance, and due to site constraints, a shed has to be put, 6 inches closer to the lot line. That would normally go to, the Committee of Adjustment because it is a minor variance. What would happen in that situation at this point in time?
To you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, I advised council that I'll bring a future report in front of council in June prior to the enactment of the bylaw, and we'll have another discussion on these Bill 73 provisions. So my intent was to seek council's direction to pass a resolution specifically for variances that would avoid, once council passes a new bylaw, it would avoid me coming forward to council seeking a resolution from council to accept each and every minor variance application. But we will have opportunity in June. I'll have another report in front of council, and we'll have another discussion on that Bill 73 clause related to that recommendation number 5.
Councillor Perry?
Thank you, and I appreciate the clarification. I wasn't able to watch the tape between now, so I thank you for that. That doesn't seem like a big deal either, so I look forward to seeing that report in the future, and I'll leave things as is.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple of, I think, short questions regarding R2 from GC last week, regarding the interim operating budget.
We can get to it. It's on the regular agenda. It's on the regular agenda.
Oh, that's on the regular agenda too, okay.
Yeah, so if there's no others, pardon me, may I please have a motion to adopt Item C1 from last week's agenda, which is sub-items are 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Councilor Maracas?
Yeah. I just want to pull R1 so we can get the vote on the record.
So move it to regular.
Yeah, please.
So that would be then R4, 5, 6, and 7? Would someone move that, please? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Well, we can move everything then. So everything in the consent agenda with the exception of C1 sub R1. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, you okay with that? Thank you. Vote, please. Are we going electronic, or are we doing hands? Linda? Hands. Hands up. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have 5 items in the regular agenda tonight. We've had some people who dutifully stayed last week for the internet discussion, which we did not get to. So if I could ask if that got moved forward, please. I'm sorry? C1R1 first. Okay. R1? You just want to move it as it is? Second? Any comments or questions? Councillor Humphreys seconded. Any comments or questions? In that case, calling the vote. Recorded. I'm sorry, Councillor Abel. Pardon me? Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I wanted to say that I'm in support of moving ahead. We're back at the starting line, as I like to say. The item 3, that staff move ahead with the demolition and procurement process for design services, is exactly what we had in front of us in June of 2013. And we've been looking at other, we got distracted with a couple of other ideas, but it's good to see that we're back where we all started, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the designs are. I think it's important, and we don't have it, that we should engage our community and partners. So I hope that we're going to look for some participation at that level. We did receive from the library board exactly that, and some of the comments last week indicated that some of the partners in our community are not being engaged. So I think if we move ahead and engage with our community partners, our businesses, our cultural partners, the library, the cultural center, our chamber, I'm very excited that we're going to come up with something really good here at the Library Square. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very optimistic as well. We're going to come up with something very special. I think we've been working towards that goal. My understanding is through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, has all committees, Chamber of Commerce, Library Board, Cultural Center, were they all presented? Were they presented with a presentation to get their thoughts and ideas throughout this whole process?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we did consult with all the various boards about a year ago when we brought forward when we went through the visioning exercise. Correct.
Councillor Maracas.
Thank you. So we've, as I stated last week, we've heard from the community, we've heard from our community partners, we've heard from all of our boards. We're moving forward as we all want to, and as the community wants us to. I don't believe that we're back at the beginning. I believe we are actually on target and where we've decided to keep pushing forward. Last June, we made a decision to demolish those 2 buildings, so we can't be back because we've already made that decision. We're moving forward with putting out the tender to have someone come and do the demolition for us. We're also putting out the tender to get those detailed designs. We haven't done that. We've done it to come up with some concepts. over high view concepts. That's what we've done, and now we're looking for those detailed designs, and that's where we're moving forward, and we're putting out those tenders. So I'm excited, just as everyone else is, and just as excited as the public, to get this done and finally move forward and have something special in that area.
Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And could I ask for you to Mr. Ramuno, when you consulted with the library board, did they suggest that you eliminate the parking and access at the front doors?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I do recall one of their comments was that they realized that they'd probably not, they wouldn't have the same amount of parking that they do have now in any future Library Square redevelopment plans. I don't believe we've gotten into specifics regarding maintaining access, et cetera. But again, as I mentioned last week, it's something that we'll certainly try to address as we move forward with the final design, trying to address the comments that we did hear from the library board and our other stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Ramuno. I'm going to suggest that they didn't ask that the access at the front door be removed. And the comments last week from the library board indicated that they would like to participate and be consulted because they hadn't been. And we did approve Section 3, and we are going to approve it now, that we instruct staff to come up with the demolition cost and to proceed with the design. And that's where we had before us 4 years ago in June 2013. So my comment that we're back where we started, or we're back at the starting line, is a long journey to get this far. We have had some conceptual ideas, but none of them were adopted, which again brings us back to the starting line. And I'm very optimistic that we'll eventually get there. Municipalities take time, and it's a slow process, and we have to be careful and consider everything, and we've done so far a lot of that. And so my comment is I'm encouraged and optimistic that we're now in a position to move where we had the opportunity 4 years ago, and that is to demolish those surplus buildings and to ask for designs.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Humphreys Thompson-Rackes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually very encouraged that we're here. Looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting time. We have to do things in a process. And while I understand where Councillor Abel is coming from, it looks like we're starting from square one. We're actually at the starting gate now after doing much needed research on repurposing of all the buildings in our community. There was always a discussion between, well, if you were to reuse the buildings for this, or if you demolish it for that, up in the air for a very long time. So we were able to do, I think, lots of community consultation, lots of public information sessions where the public were able to gauge their input on both of those options. It was done for over the last, I think, 12 years. But I think we officially conducted those surveys and those consultations officially for repurposing. And I think that's what the biggest difference is. I think we, in the past, we spoke about it. We all had ideas, but we didn't have the sort of the background guidance and what we heard officially from the public once we had completed those two studies. And again, it's repurposing versus demolition, and that was finally decided. It was actually put before, I believe, all our committees, and that we're pertaining in to that type of work requirement. And I feel good that we're doing the right thing. It's been a long time coming, and to get here, it's almost it's one of those things. It almost seems so easy at this point. Why didn't we do that? But there's a reason we didn't. There's lots of different ideas and lots of different perspectives, and we just wanted to make sure that I think this term, we actually were able to get here, and at this point, there's nowhere to go but forward, full force. The great ideas we're going to get with with additional consultation and fine-tuning of design. All the concerns of the library and other areas of our community will be absorbed and heard, and the final decision on the design will be ours to make. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm really excited about it and can't wait to make this go forward. And thank you to everyone around the table and to our residents and staff. It was a lot of work. I really do not believe it was any wasteful work at all. It had to be done. And for me, that makes me feel that we're absolutely going forward with the right research behind us, officially documented, and now we can really enjoy the road ahead to just keep going through. Thank you.
Councillor Humphries. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. I think we can all agree that, it's a challenging process. And, we've talked about it umpteen times, and the fact that, it's, as Mr. Janney said, it's probably been almost 20 years of discussion and, dozens and dozens of reports that he's written. And, Councillor Abel's right when he says that in 2013 we were talking about it, but, as we've seen in the prior reports, previous councils to that were talking about it. And I think in 2009 they talked about it. Certainly I've seen motions from 2006 and even 2003 that they talked about it. So, from my perspective, I think that this council is closer than anyone else has ever gotten to actually turning Library Square from a concept to a reality. And so I don't necessarily see us starting over. It's been a struggle. It's baby steps. But it's, like sometimes they say, it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But I think that we can all see the progress, and I'm optimistic that we'll continue to drive this forward and hopefully see it come to a fruition during this term.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Maracus, Councillor Gardner.
She hasn't gone yet. There you go.
Oh, you're second. That's correct. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When this has gone through, Library Square has gone through 5 councils that I'm aware of. It's a very difficult decision to make. It's very difficult to know what to do. We've done a lot of public consultation. I think we're on the right track. I am very sorry about the demolition of the old library, which was our centennial gift to ourselves. And I am opposed to demolishing it before we know what we're going to be doing with the property. But it is the will of the majority of council, and I do congratulate this council on, I believe, taking 1 step forward at least.
Councillor Maracus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll just echo some of those sentiments that since 2003, 2006, all these terms of council, they spent a lot of time talking about this. And there's a difference between talking about ideas and actually achieving results. And I think that's what this council has done and is doing, is we're actually getting results. We're making decisions, which past councils haven't been able to come together and make those decisions. We have. We made a decision on demolishing those 2 buildings, which no other council has been able to do. So I just want to point out that that's the difference. You can talk all you want, but unless you actually do something about it, you're never going to achieve any results. So I'm very proud of this council for moving forward.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be honest, I'm a little bit confused by Councillor Abel's comments that we're starting back over again. We spent the last few years working on a cultural precinct to have some evidence and a direction to the way we're going. I think, and I've said it before, politicians often get in trouble not when they make evidence-based decision-making, but when they go down the path of decision-based evidence-making. So I think what's important is that we spent the last few years consulting with the public, finding something that generally works for everyone, and we're moving forward. And this is the next step on a path that Councillor Maracus and Councillor Thompson put us on by moving forward with the cultural precinct study. So I think it's important that we remember how we got here. I think to anybody, around the council table who's been paying attention, who's been actively involved, there was a start to this process. There was a reboot to this process, and that reboot happened during start of the cultural study. So, you know, we are where we are. I agree with Councillor Gartner. I hate to see that building torn down. I do think we could have found a nice, unique use for it, but ultimately we have to continue moving forward. It's our job not to look at the past, but to look at the instance and the situation where we are right now. And, you know, we've spent at least the last 2 years going out, gathering information to make sure that we have a strong path to move forward on. So I'm looking forward to moving forward and doing, you know, what our residents and what our community needs, and that's some downtown revitalization. And this is a huge step in getting us there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Perry. I'll just simply say that I do believe we're moving forward, perhaps faster than some would like, not as quickly as others would, which means that we're probably about the right pace. So I do think we're moving in the right direction, and I look forward to continuing with that progress. As I've worn out my statement before, I've stood there and said, we got to move on. All right, I'm going to go to the clerk because the staff's having a little bit of challenge with the administrative amendment, so I'm going to go to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a brief software malfunction. So I wasn't sure if glitch. Excuse me. I wasn't. I don't believe a recorded vote was asked for, but we can certainly do one. Yeah.
So the clerk's going to call the recorded vote on this one item separately. That's with the funding source. Council, that's with the funding source new wording, okay? Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the correct wording is available for council on their screens right now. So we're doing a recorded vote for item R1 from the General Committee agenda for report from last week. Councillor Maracas, how do you vote? Yes. Councillor Maracas votes yes. Councillor Abel, how do you vote? Yes. Councillor Abel votes yes. Councillor Peary, how do you vote? Yes. Councillor Peary votes yes. Councillor Tom? Yes. Councillor Tom votes yes. Councillor Gartner? Yes. Councillor Gartner votes yes. Mayor Daw?
Yes.
Mayor Daw votes yes. Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Kim votes yes. Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys votes yes. And Councillor Thompson? Councillor Thompson votes yes. The motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. So then we're now into the regular agenda, and I'm going to ask if someone would please move item R4, the alternate voting methods, forward. So we may discuss it. Councillor Humphreys, thank you. Is there a second, please, to move that forward? Councillor Maracas, all in favor of moving forward? Opposed? That is carried. Someone please put the item on the floor. Councillor Maracas, thank you. Second? Councillor Humphreys. Speakers, please press your button, excuse me. I could call the vote. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Dow.
R4.
Good to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This obviously came at the last cycle to council. General Committee voted against using internet voting because we didn't recommend an alternative method, which includes the current method that, or at least the current method as to the last election, using the tabulator staff recommended on a second motion added to that council meeting that we move forward with passing the bylaw and getting a further report on internet voting. And this is the report that we've got. So before when I spoke to this issue, I cited the BC Independent Panel on Internet Voting of 2014, the City of Toronto report by security experts for an RFP on voting with disabilities using the internet in 2014, the Federal Special Committee on Electoral Reform of 2016. But I actually did a little bit more research in the interim, and I also found some other jurisdictions in Canada that have commissioned studies and reports with respect to internet voting. The Alternative Technologies Report of 2012 for Elections Ontario, the Election Commission of Nova Scotia Report of 2013, the Australian Government Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Matters of 2013, and the New Brunswick Commission of Electoral Reform Report of 2017. Like the BC independent panels and the one that I mentioned before, they all recommend against moving to internet voting, both in, some of them were in with respect to provincial jurisdictions only, and some of them with respect to both municipal and provincial jurisdictions within their boundaries. The staff report that we're talking about today references how they conducted a survey to understand more about the experiences of internet voting. 4 municipalities were included in the report. However, not included in the staff report was any information on the recent council decisions of the City of Waterloo, the City of Kitchener, the Town of Whitby, and the City of Toronto. All have recently voted down at the council level, moving to internet voting. The City of Guelph, which had a hybrid model for the 2014 election, very similar to the one that staff is proposing, voted last month to return to paper ballots for the 2018 election. And chief among concerns with the towns I'd mentioned before and the City of Guelph was security. That was really the main reasons that the councils in those jurisdictions decided against moving to internet voting. The staff report mentioned all the municipalities in Ontario that were moving towards it. I thought I'd bring light to the fact that not all municipalities that are looking at this issue are actually moving towards internet voting. And in the case of Guelph, they're actually retreating from it. The staff report also suggests that staff will be able to mitigate security issues, but it actually doesn't really cite anything in the way or plan or evidence on how to accomplish this. It just says that they'll mitigate some of the challenges, and it also notes that all voting systems have challenges which will have to be mitigated, which is true. I just think this is interesting with when you put, our situation in the town of Aurora, our size as a corporation, and you compare us to much larger organizations, both in the federal or both in the government sector and business sector that have had difficulties with cybersecurity, especially of recent times. I'm going to go through some examples from the Government of Canada, the Finance Department, the Treasury Board, the Department of Defense, Research and Development Canada. The last 2 leadership elections of the NDP all had significant cybersecurity issues. The U.S. government, the Justice Department, the Department of Homeland Security, the Pentagon, the Internal Revenue Service, the White House, the State Department, the FBI, the U.S. Postal Services, again, all have had major cybersecurity breaches recently. Blue chip corporations, there's Chrysler, Sony, Target, JP Morgan, Kmart, AOL, Google, Symantec, Yahoo, Northrop Grumman, Juniper Networks, Charles Schwab, Adobe, again, all have had major breaches. More recently in Canada, Bell Canada was hacked last Tuesday. The hack affected the personal information of 1.9 million customers. On May 15th, Walt Disney's getting hacked. I mean, it's unbelievable. The CEO, Bob Iger, revealed on May 15th that hackers claimed to have stolen an upcoming Disney movie and basically held it ransom, saying they were going to release it early if their demands weren't met. Everyone knows that the WannaCry ransomware attack that basically affected the global economy and computers all over the world in 150 countries. There was about 10,000 organizations affected with the malware, ransomware, and included the National Health Service of Britain, Deutsche Bahn, LATAM Airlines, FedEx, Renault. These are much bigger jurisdictions, much bigger companies, corporations with much larger budgets than we could even fathom in the town of Aurora for cybersecurity, and yet they all can't contain breaches. And so, my point with raising that is that obviously, the internet's wonderful and can be used for so many wonderful things and making life much more convenient, but we have limited resources in comparison, and yet they have had much bigger breaches, and so.
Time, Councillor.
I will continue on my second time, but I just think that it should be noted that these much larger corporations and government officials and agencies have had issues with cybersecurity of late.
Thank you, Councillor Marcos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our town clerk, Mr. Duran, are tabulators secure? Are they 100% secure?
Mr. Durand. Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we couldn't say that they're 100% secure.
Councillor Marcus.
Thank you. So just to, as we all like to get some information, so if you look up the optical scan voting systems and the tabulators, they were actually introduced. Actually, the first one dates back in the 1930s, but they weren't used for the first time till the 1965s. And some of the same concerns that we're hearing around the table in regards to internet voting were the same concerns that people brought up during those times, is that they weren't secure, there's a way that they can be compromised, the elections, we could end up with voter fraud. All those things were brought up back in that time. And so my point is that from 1965 to now, it's still not 100% secure, because it'll never be 100% secure. You can never create a system that will be 100% secure. And why is that? That's because the criminals get just as much knowledge and get better as time goes by, as staff and as the elections officers continue to try to look at mitigating those ways that they would look at compromising the system. So it's basically a balancing act where you're always trying to go against a criminal. And I've always said, if someone wants to take something, or if someone wants to do something, it doesn't matter how secure your system is, the best system you possibly have, they'll find a way to do it. And so the job of our elections officer is to look at those ways, to try to look at what they're going to do to compromise it and try to find a better way to stop it from happening. And so that's always going to happen. You're never going to have that secure system. So to say that there's risks involved in this, of course there's risks. But to say that, well, let's look at 2022 and possibly institute it then because we'll have better systems in place, they might be better, but the criminals will be better. The people looking to hack the systems will be better. So you'll never be in a place where you'll feel comfortable. So to say that let's wait till 2022 because it'll be better, to me that's not a reason to say let's wait because the security is going to be better, because it won't be. So I just think that this makes sense for us. It's the right thing to do, as I said the other week. It allows for those disenfranchised voters, people with accessibility issues, our seniors that can't make it out to voting locations, our younger population, students that are away at college or university, for them to be able to come out and do what is their civic duty and their constitutional right. So I believe that this is the right way to move forward for us. And if we heard some things about costs as well. If you look at the costs, implementing this the first time, there's extra costs because we have to look at communications piece, and there's a few other extra things that are initial costs. Eventually those costs will disappear, but you'll always have those initial costs no matter whether you do it now or if you do it next term or you do it the term after, you're always going to have those initial costs. So, but it will be a lower cost eventually. I mean, when you look at the reports, the first report we have, the internet voting would cost $120,000 for a municipality of 40,000 voters, whereas the 2014 municipal election was 180. So right there, it's $60,000 less. But those extra costs that are showing up on us are those extra things for communications and to make sure that when we put out the RFP to get that first RFP, it's for those first initial steps to introduce this. So, as I said, I think this is the right way for us to move forward. I think this is part of, as our strategic plan states, it makes the quality of life better for our residents.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one of those items where, I'm fine with either result. I guess my only question from the get-go is, as Councillor Peary mentioned a couple weeks ago or a month ago, is, what problem are we fixing? And I think that was well said. Do we, everything's digitized, everything's computerized. For those reasons, do we gravitate towards internet voting because that's the way the world seems to be going? The municipality seems to be going into having an asset management plan, so everyone should be doing that. Everyone's on the iPad, so let's work on the iPad instead of other instruments. I'm just trying to find the reason other than the convenience factor, because certainly it is a convenience. So far I don't think there's a report out there that really solidifies that voter turnout increases, and I think we can all agree, based on all the information that we've gathered or we've heard around the table, that using internet voting will increase voter turnout. I think past indications have resulted, it's been relatively flat. But certainly I agree that it's much more convenient, to be sure. I would certainly appreciate that from my personal perspective. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure who this question would go to, but to staff in general. There was a difference, I think, in the last report. There was going to be an 80,000 difference between the hybrid model and the traditional model, and now I'm seeing the difference is closer to 164,000. It's more than doubled. I was all willing to do the hybrid, thinking that 80,000 is the cost of the transition and trying to gravitate towards the internet model, but with a price tag of 164,000 difference for the hybrid, I'm getting kind of shy of that. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Durand, why the 80,000 increase in the cost now from the last report?
Mr. Clerk. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I used the same budget that Samantha used in her report, so and made no changes. So I'm sorry, I don't know where the discrepancy came from.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, am I right in assuming that there's a 164,000 difference between going with the hybrid and the traditional method?
Mr. Durand? Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct. It's I wouldn't say it's exact at this point. We haven't received any prices from vendors or things like that yet, but staff is projecting an approximate difference of the 164,000 that you said.
Councilor? And one other question was that I was really looking forward to the governance committee chair speaking because we were told at the last council meeting when we were deliberating this that we were going to have some added information because they've done a lot of hard work on this, and I really respect everyone on that committee, and I wanted to hear their input as to why they put out that recommendation. What was the reason, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Durand, as to why there's no one from that committee providing their perspective on how they came to their conclusion?
Mr. Durand? Through you, Mr. Daw, or Mayor Daw. Attachment number 3 to the report was prepared by the chair of the governance committee and provides a bit of an overview of where they were thinking or their thoughts in coming up with that recommendation to council. Councilor Kim?
Yes, thank you. No, I was hoping for a little bit of back and forth Q&A, but that's fine. I guess lastly, it's really, for me now, it's just really the cost difference. I mean, I would rather, if I had a choice between internet right now and the conventional method, I don't see a reason to change because there hasn't been an overwhelming argument to change just for the sake of change. And I do agree with Councilor Marakis that in terms of risk, I'm not really concerned with the risks. I mean, the risks are there no matter what option you choose. It's just, there might be a little bit of, the scale of risk might be a little bit different, but I'm not concerned with that. It's just more of I just don't want to make the change for the sake of that. And I was willing to do that, but I am a little hesitant because of the cost difference. But I'd like to hear what others have to say, and then I'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson, Peary, Humphreys.
For myself, I'm supportive of the motion in front of us. For me, it's not just about convenience, it's also accessibility. We had some written comments by a delegate. And for those that know Tyler Barker, you can think of, for some, there's a challenge to get to get out and vote. It's a mobility issue. There's a cost associated for some. And this option allows, all a better opportunity to get out and vote. They may not exercise it. It may not improve numbers, as some councillors have alluded to, but it does create, I think, a more equal playing field and allows people then opportunity to vote that may have had challenges getting out in the past. It also provides additional opportunities for those that, for whatever reason, maybe they're hospitalized, maybe they're away at university or out of town. Again, it just allows people a greater opportunity to participate in their democratic right. And so for me, I'm supportive of the hybrid model, but I did want to speak a little bit to the security and some of the comments being raised, because I don't believe that internet voting in any way elevates the risk to the town. We conduct a lot of online business. You know, if somebody wants to attack the town through malware or some cybersecurity attack, having online voting or not will not increase or elevate our exposure level. You know, those people that were reported to have, you know, hacked Yahoo or, you know, Fortune 500 companies, if they really wanted to, it doesn't matter whether we're online voting or not. We have plenty of exposure. We have free internet. We have all kinds of, shall we say, potential doors that somebody who is knowledgeable and skilled could, you know, take advantage of. We try and do everything we can to mitigate that risk. I'm sure our IT department does everything they can, but I think as we've seen, you know, in many news reports, if somebody is willing and determined, they'll find a way. And whether we do online voting or not, if they really want to target the town, if they have the skill set, they may succeed. And so, you know, I want to separate that risk level of the malware and all those comments, because I think, you know, that's not material to the conversation. You know, I think, you know, Councillor Tom's brought up some good points about, you know, attacking the election process itself, so be it. But I don't want anybody to go out with this perception that, you know, we're increasing our risk of cybersecurity by doing online voting. I think the risk is always going to be there.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do find it a little bit interesting that the two councillors around the table who were born in 1987, who've grown up with technology, are some of the two that have the biggest concerns with this. I agree with Councillor Thompson. I don't think that there's any real fear of somebody coming in and deciding to choose to attack the town of Aurora and their election process. That's not my concern when I'm thinking about security with regards to internet voting. My concern with security is somebody attacking one of the larger proponents and one of the largest suppliers of the online voting software, and disrupting it not just for the town of Aurora, but disrupting it for all of the elections taking place within Ontario. So that's my security concern more than anything else. I agree that we have to do what, wherever possible, we have to help with accessibility issues. Let's look to the province. They came in with the AODA, and through you to our town clerk, Michael, does the province allow internet voting?
Mr. Rod?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, not that I know of.
Councillor?
If we have the Act for Ontario's with Disability Act, if we do have the AODA in place, that's put in place by the provincial government is not moving forward in this direction. I don't think it's necessarily fair to the members of council who disagree with this that we get painted as a brush that we don't want to be moving forward with accessibility issues. That's not the reason and the rationale that I am putting this forward. My concern really is somebody attacking the system, not attacking the town of Aurora, but somebody attacking that. If we're going to have a discussion around the tabulators used in 1935 versus the tabulators used today, there's a big difference between an analog system and a digital system.
Time, Councillor.
I see that I have a minute.
That's a count up. That's not a
Understood. I'll stop for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I got this fancy little gizmo. Yeah, we're still working on that part. Councillor Humphreys.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and I just did a quick little survey. So the town of Guelph implemented it in 2014, and I looked and saw that their voter turnout in 2010, based on percentages, is 33.91% came out to vote. Not that much, considering their population was probably about 120,000 then. But in 2014, it was 43.21, which is like about a 10% increase. And I know that the majority of council there voted it down, but the mayor and council, one councillor, are pretty discouraged that this is happening. There wasn't any real huge reason why they didn't want to use it, really. Reading past information, other than they just didn't prefer it. For me, my whole life I've been in the technology world. I support technology, complex software, complex network environments, and we're doing online banking, we're shopping online, we're using credit cards online. For me, it was just taking a step back and thinking, I absolutely love the night of the election, and the family, and you go out and you vote. From a personal perspective, I love that, and I think it's still a great tradition and an effort to be made by everyone. It's a democratic right, but from a practical perspective, in terms of how things are moving in general, and the individuals who have accessibility issues, seniors that can't get out, and individuals that cannot make it out of their home easy, that this will allow them to exercise a democratic right to vote, and it's not holding them back. They can vote, they can do their research online, they can make their phone calls, and then they can make their vote. For me, it's the way to go. If we don't do it now, it will happen eventually. Just back to Guelph for a moment. Very concerned that the individuals that are upset that this vote may go forward and no longer have the opportunity to vote online, they're feeling that they're taking a step back only to be going that way again in the future, and really regretting that. That's just from what I've read. Anyway, for me, I support moving forward in electronic voting. I think it is the right way to go, and there's going to be lots of security around that. And I'm sure that the IT department will do what they need to do to put those security requirements around our access points. So that's it for me. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries. I've got Councillor Abel Gartner, and then I'll be coming back to you for a second time. Okay, we still got time.
Does anyone know, and I couldn't find this easily, do we know what the voter turnout was 2010 and then 2014 for Aurora? Do we have that?
It's somewhere, but I don't know if Mr. Derwine has it as his fingertips.
Through the chair, that's very easy to find. I could email it to council probably tonight, but I don't have it on hand.
At least 9. I'm sorry, we had Councillor Abel Gartner.
I think the voter turnouts were low 30s in both. There was no significant change, but first of all, I want to thank my comment at the last time we had this up was a good, effective communication strategy or plan. So I thank very much the communications department, Stephanie McKenzie-Smith, for putting together a very comprehensive outline of that communication plan. It was also suggested in the governance that was important to roll something like this out, as well as the comments I got when I looked online when other municipalities were employing it. I thank Councillor Tom for bringing up all his concerns, especially the municipalities that used it and the ones that weren't in favor of it. And I thank Tyler Barker for making his comments. He is our chair of our Accessibility Advisory Committee. I think he made some very valid points. The bottom line is we pay our taxes online. Mr. Mayor, I think we can confirm that with just a nod from our finance director. We pay our taxes online. We should be able to vote online. I saw a great piece on TV not this hour has 20 minutes, what's his name?
Rick Mercer?
Rick Mercer does a rant on internet voting, and it was poignant. His last line was, "This is where we're going. This is how we're going to be online and using technology. This is what the younger generation, my children, not all here at the table, but this is where we are going with our lifestyle is online communications. We pay our taxes, and so therefore we should accommodate. I would be in favor of using hybrid so that we've we've got an idea, we're rolling it out. If it becomes secure, and I don't think anything ever is, but at that time, the safeguards will be in place. So I'm in favor of moving ahead. I think in the old days you had to be present to vote. Now we take in mail-in ballots from around the world for federal and provincial, and I know you can mail them in as well for municipal. So it's time to try different ways to engage and get that response during an election, and I'll be in favor of moving ahead with the hybrid model.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask the clerk on page 7, under accessibility, should council decide that internet voting will not be included, the bottom line, investigate new technologies available to us to make the election more accessible. Would that allow someone to vote from home?
Mr. Rodot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it would not. We nothing like that. It'd be in-person technologies. I can't speak to them. We haven't investigated them yet, but just anything that through the vote in vote tabulation that's cutting edge, not internet voting though.
Councillor Gartner.
Thank you. I agree with the two youngest members of council sitting across the way from me. And I find it very interesting how this divide has happened. But I'm going to vote for this because I believe that anything that can contribute to accessibility is the right way to go for this council. So I will be in favor, and I'm really not happy about it, but there it is.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Yeah, a couple of others have noticed that there seems to be an inverse relationship here. It's kind of interesting. I do support it, and if you look at the resolution is that we support internet voting for the advanced voting period. So certainly not for the date. I'm sorry. Councillor Gartner's mic is still on. Just don't say anything nasty, Councillor Gartner. Okay, we're good? Yeah, that's because me. It's my fault. I've got Councillor Tom and then Councillor Kim for the second time. So Mr. Clerk, just to confirm, so the advanced, that would be normally we have 4 or 5 advanced voting days. People would come over to the senior center as an example and use the tabulators over there. So what you're suggesting then is that for that advanced period would be internet voting, and then for the day of, is that correct, that it would be the tabulator voting? Could you clarify that for me?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the idea would be if the hybrid option is advanced forward to have voting stations set up, and hypothetically the person walks in and can pick paper versus internet voting, so that we'd be offering voting stations for advanced too. You could still vote with a paper ballot if you wanted to during the advanced vote, but we also offer internet station or internet polling stations too.
So just to be clear, then I wouldn't be able to use internet voting from home?
Yeah, you would be.
Okay, all right.
We'd just make it open to people who wanted the polling station experience but wanted to vote online.
Thank you very much. So I'm in support of the recommendation. I will go back now to Councillor Tom and then Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Just in response to some of the comments from other councillors, Councillor Thompson mentioned how I mentioned malware and ransomware. I wasn't talking about the town being infected by malware or ransomware, which of course can happen no matter what, but if there's someone who is sending out phony emails saying, you know, click this email to vote, and you get locked out of your computer on voting day, you know, now your constitutional right to vote has just been infringed upon by the town not providing options or whatever. And so, you know, that's my concern with malware and ransomware. It's not necessarily the town's computers being affected, it's everyone's computers being affected. And considering that there's about maybe 5 vendors that, or maybe even less, it could be as low as 3 vendors that handle all the internet voting for every municipality in Ontario or something like that. I mean, it would only take a hacker to hack one of those vendors for a significant amount of municipalities to be affected. You know, and of course, municipalities vote on the same day in Ontario. So to me, again, that's the risk factor I find in this. Councillor Humphreys mentioned that Guelph's percentage of the vote went up by 10% from 2010 to 2014. The reason why you need evidence and kind of an objective way of looking at this that's over a large sample area is because what if there was an item on the ballot that year that, or a contentious local issue, the increase in voter turnout could have been attributed to something completely different than internet voting. Has nothing to do with, it could or it couldn't. And so that's why you need to have it looked at in a way that is comprehensive. And to date, and I cited all the, almost 10 bodies that our provincial legislatures, federal parliaments have commissioned on this issue, and all of them have recommended not to move forward with internet voting. And so, they're not any less accessible. I mean, we want to make our elections as accessible as possible. The federal government uses mail-in voting. The difference with internet voting is that there's no way to scrutinize or check the results after those votes have left someone's computer. So Councillor Marakis mentioned that the optical scan tabulators have risk. That's true. You could hack the vendor, but there are paper ballots to count. If there's a recount, if there's any inkling of a hack, then you can count those paper ballots. There's no paper receipt for an internet vote. And in fact, the only open test of internet voting, which was in Washington, D.C., the 2 professors and university students changed every single vote and released everyone's private information 48 hours before the vendor was even able to pick it up. So, that was a while ago. Maybe there's been significant increases in security since then. But again, I was looking for staff to come and say, here are those significant increases. And that hasn't happened. So I might ask through you, Mr. Mayor, if a scrutineer at the last election was going to scrutinize election day and the veracity of the election results, he'd have access to look at the paper ballots. Is that not correct?
Mr. Clerk?
He or she.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's certain circumstances around it, but generally you can look at the paper ballots, yes, or you can contest a vote at least.
Councillor?
And what will be the process by which a scrutineer would be able to scrutinize internet voting?
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, they are allowed to be in the voting stations when electors are being added to the list. They're allowed to inspect any forms that add electors to the list. In terms of the actual count, there really isn't much of a role for scrutineers to play.
Councillor?
I was a deputy returning officer during a provincial election about 10 years ago, or I don't remember exactly. And there were scrutineers, and when we were counting the ballots, looking at which ones would be accepted, which ones were, marked ineligible, and so forth, scrutineer looked at every single ballot and counted it with us. And this is one polling station in King Township across the province of Ontario. So, I think it's a real concern. And, I appreciate that we could have looked at ways to make Aurora more accessible. I mean, mail-in voting, again, there's a paper ballot. That way you can vote from home. It's safer than internet voting. But again, part of my beef with this whole discussion is that it took place very late in the term, very late to the deadline when we had to have the bylaw passed. Again, council voted against internet voting. And then it's kind of worked its way back through various means. The last thing I'll say is that we all want everyone to be able to exercise their constitutional right to vote, and I think that is very sacred. But we have to make sure that we have the safest method possible to conduct our elections. And we owe that to the residents, because if there's ever an issue with, say, the result of an election, you only need to look south of the border to see what kind of mayhem can be caused. And I just think that paper ballots offer the safest method. And I mean, it's 1 day every 4 years for the town of Aurora that people have to put in their calendar and say, I'm going to make efforts to vote. I agree we could do better for inclusivity for people with accessibility issues, but I just think the risks associated with internet voting don't outweigh the benefits. And I just think that, you know, I wish we had come about this a bit earlier in the term, but as it stands right now, I think the status quo, the way we have gone in the last couple of elections, the tabulators is fine for me, but I can't support the motion on the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Councillors Kim, Marakis, Gardner.
You know, the sad thing about this is, you know, myself being caught in the middle of being born in '82, and you got the '87s and some of the more mature people around the table. I find myself caught in the middle myself. And but the sad part of it is, you know, if we do extrapolate out 20, 30 years and we find ourselves voting in the comforts of our home, and the, you know, the primary tenet of our free country is democracy and the freedom to vote, and that's not going to be demonstrated any longer. It's kind of sad in a way, because filling out a ballot, you know, no matter how you do it, waiting in line, that demonstrates to the whole world that as a free country, that is what we stand for. And if we need to have extra convenience to be able to do that, that concerns me from a principal perspective. I know that, you know, I'm kind of, I like to be principled and be a romantic in that way, but I know that that's not the way the world is going to be going. Probably we will be voting from home in the comforts of our chair in between playing Atari video games or something. And it is sad. And I did hear from a few people, you know, not that many. It's not like I have a huge reach personally or otherwise, but for those few I did speak to, as Councillor Humphrey said, you know, they enjoy going out as traditionally every 4 years. So not to be able to to conform to what is, I'm not sure if it's a positive thing or a negative thing, but to conform to this trend where the rest of the world won't see what it means to have democracy is kind of saddening. Another point through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Durand, Councillor Marakis pointed out and Councillor Thompson as well, I think, in terms of the cost savings, and the initial cost is mainly at the beginning. It's a huge cost, $160,000 versus, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's a huge variance, and I'm just wondering, besides communications, we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars in communication, and we would still need communication in subsequent elections. So how much are we going, do you think, roughly, will we be saving on a percentage basis over subsequent elections? I just want to know that, because my primary concern is really the finances.
Mr. Durand.
Through you, Mr. Chair. It's tough to say. I guess it would depend on the method of council's choosing. The reason that the cost is $164,000 more for hybrid versus the other two options of internet only and tabulator voting, regular paper ballot and tabulator voting, is that in essence we're running two elections with a hybrid model, and that we'd still need to have the paper ballots on hand, so that if everybody in the town wanted to vote with the paper or with paper ballot, we'd have them available. But at the same time, we still have to pay for the internet or voting platform. So that's the reason for the additional costs. Going forward, and if in 2022 that council chose to with the hybrid option once again, I would say, I haven't considered it, but maybe there'd be $30,000-$40,000 of savings, but we would still be, that's not, inflation might negate that completely. So we would still be, if a hybrid model is chosen, it'll always be significantly more expensive than the other two options.
Councillor Kim?
Even the pure internet option, I would have thought that would have been significantly less expensive than traditional method, but I guess you have to pay the software companies time for their brain power and all their efforts. How will that, because I think I saw somewhere that that will also decline in terms of software costs. Can you confirm why that would decline every 4 years?
Mr. Durant?
I certainly can't confirm that it would decline for 2022, but it has seemed to decline a bit this year just because of the increase of supply of vendors available to the municipalities of Ontario. And that seems to be the most reasonable reason. But I just said another example would be, with the first go-around of internet voting with the town, we would have more voting locations than might seem necessary, just to make sure that we're really giving everyone the option or providing everyone the support they need to make sure they can vote. And so we might, we'd learn lessons in between now and 2022 and become more efficient with running the whole system.
Councillor Kim?
To summarize then, I think based on what I've heard, that there would be a higher probability of having some savings. Second, I see 2 members of our esteemed governance committee members there, and I know that their IQs are certainly higher than mine. So I'll leverage in all the conversations that they've had. I do trust their judgment, and we did appoint them. And given that we do represent the residents, and I think from just roughly from what I've gauged, more than 50%, at the very least, are leaning towards the digital era of voting. So I'll hop on over to that camp and be supportive of the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Morakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just also wanted to point out, when you read the initial report as well, when you look at the costs, due to the fact that our tabulators are outdated, we need to rent tabulators if we are going to use them, and which we are looking at doing within the hybrid. And so therefore, that rental cost is $85,000. So that's part of why there's a jump in the costs, is that we need to rent those tabulators. If we, if everything goes smoothly and everything goes great in 2022, we might decide to, the council of the day might decide to move to full internet voting. And so therefore you'd realize an automatic $85,000 savings compared to the previous one. So just wanted to point that out just in case no one saw that. And as far as actually having a paper ballot to verify afterwards in case there is a dispute or anything like that. It's my understanding, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Durant, it's my understanding that that's some of the companies use where they take a screenshot and of the vote, and that becomes actually, if there is a dispute, that becomes an actual paper ballot, and they actually feed that through a tabulator to do a recount or anything like that. I believe I've read that on a couple of the sites. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I have talked to a couple other professionals within the field, and they have mentioned that some of them do have that. So I'd like to think that any company that we do go with within that RFP, that they would actually have that to make sure that we have that as a backup. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, and I was just going to make one other mention. As far as Guelph, I know that Guelph reverted back, and a lot of was stated, if you read a lot of the things that some of their councillors said, and I don't want to actually go into conversations about why another council did something, but the feeling is I mean, the risks are the risks, and we've made aware, but it seems that it was a little bit more political than it was actually about anything else. But I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. 30%. We've all talked about the last few elections, and typically in a municipal election, it's low 30s is the turnout. At least it was here in Aurora, the last few ones. And so what that means to me is that 3 out of 10 registered voters came out to vote, and so that 7 out of 10 didn't. And so I think there is an obligation upon us to always look at ways to enhance and improve upon what we're doing to get more people interested and out to vote. And so I agree that there has been absolutely no evidence to date that internet voting will improves voter turnout. But I do believe that you could argue that there is evidence that doing the same thing over and over will produce the same result. And so, from my perspective, in the long run, the more municipalities that get engaged in internet voting, the more communication that goes out there, that in the long run, we will see an enhancement. We will see an improvement in the voter turnout. And that's another reason why I support this move. I see it as a first step for us.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. If we're really interested in spurring people on to vote, maybe we can offer a reduction in property taxes. If people vote, I think that would push people out to vote a lot more than just moving towards internet voting. Anyways, I'm not going to belabor this argument anymore. I think everybody knows where I stand, where Councillor Tom stands, and I think everybody else around the table has had the opportunity to speak. So, Mr. Mayor, I think it's fair enough that we can call the question or at least move forward.
Okay, sir. Linda, you open the vote, please. That has been moved and seconded, has it not? Yes. Yeah, it was moved by Councillor Maracas and Councillor Thompson. Right. Jonathan? You shouldn't need that. She drives it. Linda drives it. We got everybody? You post the results, please. Do you have a screenshot, Councillor Perry? That motion carries. We will now take our break.
20 minutes late, but what the heck.
Could I call the meeting back to order, please? That's Just remember, the 10 minutes for the break is to go and come back, not to stand around and talk and then go. If I could please have a motion to move item R2 forward. We do have someone in the audience for that. It's a license agreement with, thank you, Councillor Perry. Second, please, just to move forward. Councillor Kim, thank you. All in favor of moving that forward? All in favor of moving that forward? Yes, that would require hands up in the air. Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Someone put that on the floor, please. Councillor Perry, thank you. Second. Councillor? No, the first one was to move the item forward, Linda. So Councillor Perry's moved the item. Councillor Kim, you want to second it? Thank you. Keeps it the way it is. Speakers to the item, please. Seeing none, I will call the vote then. All in favor of the item? Opposed? I'm sorry? Oh, Linda? Internet. It's actually not internet. Oh, it is. Yeah, you're right. Apologize. Everybody voted? Who hasn't? I don't think you vote, do you? You can close the vote. We got everybody? Councillor Humphreys.
I voted.
Councillor Thompson.
We voted.
He was watching the hockey game.
Is hockey still on?
Okay, we've got everybody passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll go back to item R1, interim operating budget forecast as of March 31st, 2017. Item R1. Someone move that, please? Staff report. Councillors Tom and Humphreys. Comments or questions on the budget item, please? Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Elliott. The report talks about, with regards to IES, the unfavorable figure there. There was an unanticipated cost in streetlight electricity costs. Can you elaborate what that means in terms of unanticipated streetlight costs, given that we implemented the LED lighting over a year ago, and that's supposed to save us some of these expenses. So if you can provide some light, that'd be great.
Well done. Shed some light on the subject. Mr. Elliott, please.
Mr. Chair, I'll do my best to shed some light. I think it's fair to say that the LED project took much longer to implement than was first expected. My understanding is that we're still waiting on some particular custom lighting to be installed, and so we have not realized the savings that we anticipated as quickly as we first thought. And so I think it's fair to suggest that the 2017 budget was anticipating a full implementation of LED lighting by this point, and we have not achieved that. And so we're running a little behind on our budget for 2017.
Councillor Kimball.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the explanation. That's what I thought. So I guess we budgeted that it would be completely completed, and we would have the cost savings of a full implementation. But because we had gradual implementation, we did not get the desired savings. Okay. My next question is, in terms of now that we've had 3 months of operations, so are you extrapolating a balanced year-end position based on essentially a linear extrapolation of the fiscal first quarter? Like we acknowledge that in certain quarters it can get very lumpy. You know, there's lumpy revenues, lumpy expenditures. So have all that been accounted for in your deduction, or is this just a straight linear kind of extrapolation that because first quarter is in line, the rest of the quarters are going to be in line?
Mr. Elliott, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, actually quite to the opposite of that. It's not a linear extrapolation, but rather each department has looked at their first quarter results and their budgets, but also what's expected for the balance of the year, and are looking to the end of the year. What are we going to be ending? In my past experience, often an early forecast at this time of the year shows everybody forecasting, I'm going to hit target, I'm going to be zero. But you see throughout the organization, we've got some pluses and some minuses, and it's netting to zero, fortunately. But the fact that there's pluses and minuses tell me that my director colleagues have done their homework and are looking at the long-term 12 months and saying, this is the best I can see at this point. And so, yes, they're extrapolating using their results, but also what their plans are and what they may be able to mitigate between now and the end of the year. And so they're forecasting these results. At the end of the day, it's about $41,000. And so I say $41,000 on a $60 million budget is a net zero, and we should be coming in at zero for the end of the year.
Thank you. And so I guess as quarters roll on, I would imagine then that the variance and the probability of predicting a more accurate outcome would be a higher probability. Is that fair to say?
As right now, the balance is 25% actual and 75% conjecture. As that balance shifts, of course, the outcomes are become better, more accurate. But this is our early crack at it. ELT is looking at these financials every month and looking at the large picture as well as our own departments. And we're really trying to step up our fiscal accountability upon each other and with the CAO every month.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Nadarozny. Mr. Nadarozny, I mean, the report says that we'll have a deficit, as mentioned, of 41,500, but that staff will continue to remain vigilant to realize budget savings wherever possible in order to minimize or eliminate any deficit at year end. At this point, do you foresee any need to make changes to service levels or programs or anything of that nature to address those issues? Are you comfortable moving forward that, through the normal course of business, these savings opportunities will present themselves and at the end of the day help us right-size the budget?
Mr. Nadarozny, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this stage, although as has been said, it's still early, I'm confident that we can adjust where we need to and come in on budget.
Thank you. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it caught my attention with the deficit on the infrastructure and environmental services, and the question was asked about the streetlight electricity cost, but could you explain, please, through you, Mr. Mayor, the unplanned 2016 snow management invoice?
Mr. Nader-Rosny?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So this occurred after we'd closed the books for 2016. Another invoice was found that related to expenses in 2016. Because the auditors had already been called in and the year from an accounting perspective was over, we had to carry that invoice forward to 2017.
Councillor?
Could I ask how much that was?
Mr. Elliott?
I believe it was 60.
Somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000. I just haven't got that number off the top of my head.
Snow management be? Is it a person we paid, or?
Mr. Elliott?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this would be the primary snow removal contractor that we deal with. And it was just an invoice literally that was issued in the calendar 2016 or early 17 in respect of 16. But it unfortunately was not forwarded through and processed for payment in a timely manner. And it was tucked under something, and unfortunately by the time it came to our attention, the books were already closed, the audit was well underway, and we were past the point of making those retroactive adjustments.
Councillor Abel?
So the 2016 has two parts to the management of snow. It has what we normally consider winter, January, February, March. So would that be what we're talking to? Is that time period, that snow management?
Mr. Elliott?
No, sir. This would be an invoice related to the October, November, December period of 16. And so it was issued late 16 or early 17. Perhaps there was a little lag from the vendor in issuing the invoice. And then clearly there was a lag in the department getting it processed and into accounts payable for payment.
Thank you very much. I mean, that explains, to me, like an appropriate gap if it happened late. Thank you.
Any other speakers, please? Seeing none, calling the vote. All in favor of the item, please? Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Linda, open the vote, please. Sorry, I thought my microphone. R5 is a receive for information. It speaks to R3. It's from, we could receive that. That would be fine. So move R5 forward to receive. Moving it forward, Councillor Maracas. Second to move forward, please. Councillor Tom. All in favor of moving forward? Thank you. Someone put the item on the floor. Councillor Maracas, thank you. Second. Councillor Thompson. And yeah, we're just receiving that for information. R5, Linda? No, we're just. No, it's R5 we're doing. It's R5. We're not. We're providing direction? No, we're not providing direction on that. We're just receiving it for information. Yeah, the recommendation on my memo is receive for information. So that is all we're doing. Voting's up, please. That carries unanimously. Back to item R3 then, which does require direction. So if someone would care to put a resolution on the floor for us, please. Well, the chair doesn't usually do that. I am the regional representative. I'd be happy to do that. May I pass the chair to you, Councillor Abel?
It'd be my pleasure, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I'll move that council endorse the regional report. If there's a second.
Seeing no seconder?
I'll ask, Mr. Chair, if I may ask the clerk to...
I'll ask the questions, Mr. Mayor.
Fair enough.
I'll ask the clerk if he could help.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I think endorse and I think the region would prefer the word consent rather than endorse. It's just a very minor word change.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Mayor, you're good with that, the consent? Could I have a seconder? Is there a seconder on the table? Councillor Kim seconds that. Any comments or questions? Oh, here we go. Councillor Maracus.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't be able to support the motion that's in front of us to consent this. I felt that the region should have looked at this overall, and I know that they looked at it overall as their whole governance review, but I'm actually quite disappointed that they've only chosen to look at adding a seat for Vaughan. I feel that if Vaughan, which is another part of the southern three municipalities, if they were to get another seat, I think it would be very doom and gloom for us at ever having a chance or an opportunity of getting that second seat that we've been looking for quite a long time and advocating for. So I can't support this without Aurora getting a second seat.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I agree with Councillor Maracus. Without the town of Aurora getting a second seat, I see no reason or rationale to support City of Vaughan receiving an additional seat. I think my comments have been consistent over the years. Last time when Newmarket voted against Aurora to not allow us to have that second member of regional council. It's a big job, Mr. Mayor, and I don't think it's fair that you should have to be doing this alone. I don't think it's appropriate that, we aren't represented as fully as we could be because you can't be in two places at once. And I think it's a non-starter that we're relegated to just one member of regional council. There's something that keeps jumping in my mind, and then it keeps jumping out. I understand that under proposed legislation, we will have the ability, perhaps, to appoint a designate. But again, I don't think that meets our full requirements. I don't think that's the bar that needs to be met. So I'd be happy to support this if the town of Aurora were receiving another member of regional council, but we're not. So I'll be voting against it.
Thank you. And we've got lots of people here. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Councillor Aribo. I'm not sure if this question is best directed to Mayor Daw or our clerk, but just in terms of, I guess, any statutory requirements in terms of when the region has to pass the bylaw, is this time sensitive from the Municipal Act's perspective?
Mr. Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it could be. The regional clerk has asked that correspondence be received from all the municipalities by the end of this month, and they need to have it in place by the end of this year, but there is the triple majority process. They need an order from the minister. So I think that they seem to me to have some time right now, but time quickly runs out and we're approaching summer, so I would think that they want to have this as soon as possible, and just to not to cut it close or anything like that either.
Thank you for that explanation. And I think that the one challenge I'm having is I think there's a number of things in play currently, including the election of the regional chair, which was my understanding, received royal assent at the end of December. So I don't know how this plays into it. So I would have thought that the region would have taken a look at not just the situation to deal with Vaughan, but also what their council composition would look like come 2018 and present, I guess, a more fulsome picture as opposed to just dealing with this separately and then I guess at some later date dealing with that piece as well. And so, I think I much would rather see, as stated with others, what exactly regional council will look like come 2018, including the election of the regional chair and how that composition is going to break out before weighing into this. And so if there is time, I'd like to get some information from the region on that.
Thank you, Councillor. This is just a question before I go to Councillor Gardner. Could we put in that we'll approve this if we get a second seat? Would that be appropriate? I mean, because it seems to be, I'll just put that up. Maybe someone does want to amend that. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. For as long as I've been on council, Aurora has been trying to get a second seat. And it's very disappointing to me for the reasons that have been mentioned that that we didn't get the seat. I think we need it. And we've grown a lot. And so I can't support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. I'll go to Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I seconded the motion, this motion, in order that we can start the discussion. But certainly, I am also disappointed that we did not attain a second seat at the table at the region, nor any favorable disposition otherwise. I don't know what the right formula is. It seems that if you just look at the population perspective, we'll never get a second seat based on the limitations of our boundaries. I think we're the smallest of the communities represented in the region. And just through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Mayor, what are the other? Were there any other formulas in terms of how to attain the right number of seats for fair representation? Were there any other formulas discussed before they came to this conclusion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Kim, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Kim. The primary driver has always been representation by population. And at this point, and for the foreseeable future, Aurora has 5% of the population, roughly, of York Region, and we have 5% of the votes at council. And part of the driver behind the Vaughan resolution is that from that perspective they are underserved. Whereas Newmarket has 2, and then Georgina has 2, pardon me. EG, Witcher-Stouffville, King, and ourselves have 1 representative. Physically, actually, Newmarket's the smallest, not Aurora. So if that makes a difference, I don't know. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I feel the same as the comments around the table. They're gonna, if this goes through, they have 4 representatives right now, and they're gonna go to 5. And although they have a high population, I think something has to be looked at from a formula perspective, because I can't imagine 4 people representing regional concerns. I mean, I get it, you know, they've got a high population, but it just seems a bit overkill, and going to 5 is, I don't think it's necessary. They can handle it. Just a good question, I don't know if it's appropriate, but when we had tried to obtain additional support, was there anyone in favor for our community? Does anybody know? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the northern 6 were in support. The southern 3 were not.
Okay, so I don't support this. Thanks. Thank you.
I'm sorry? I apologize. As far as I recall, Newmarket supported it, so I will go back and check my records. I'm happy to do that, but overall, obviously the southern 3 have the preponderance of the vote, and they turned it down. And Markham, by the way, has 5 already. Vaughan has 4. Richmond Hill has 3, including the position of mayor.
Good. Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess I'll have to ask the mayor. I looked through the minutes. Does the region, what method does the region now use for? Is there a method for reapportionment, or is this just every time the population changes, then the council they pass a resolution of their own making to increase the seats? I mean, I know we just talked about the award discussion where they're adding it now. Is there a formal process that happens every term, or does this just happen when the regional council decides that they need further representation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Councillor Tom. No, it would be up to the individual municipality to bring that forward as a request. There is no formal mechanism that would trigger that, say, once a term, as an example, but it is the process which is prescribed in the Municipal Act.
Thank you. I guess, looking into this a little bit further, my preference would be if we're going to have representation by population, as you mentioned, the really only fair way for that to be effective is if you use something that's apolitical. So in the States, the House of Representatives uses the census. Every 10 years, they have a census, and the Congress uses the census numbers to reapportion the amount of seats. Some states lose representation, some states gain representation. It depends on the ebbs and flows of population. Because as you mentioned, we're adding a seat or they're asking us to add a seat for Vaughan. And they might be underrepresented now. The numbers bear that out, but Georgina has 2, and so they're overrepresented. Vaughan's going to be equally represented now, and Aurora. So for me, I think this is probably a huge undertaking. I'm not saying it's simple. The reason I have trouble with this is that it just seems that There's no formal process. It seems like, you know, the bottom three, they have a majority on regional council. Who's to stop them? So at least if it was fair, you know, again, apportioned by a census data or something else like that, and then at least Aurora, you know, if we're only getting one based on population, that's the reason why, not because the northern six agreed with when we requested an additional one, but the bottom three didn't. So, you know, my issue with this whole process is that it just seems to me that it could be improved. So those are my comments. You know, on the merits, I'm probably not going to have a popular opinion on this. I think Vaughan is probably underrepresented, regardless of how they voted in the past. But I just don't think that this is the right process by which to go about it. So, unfortunately, I will support what's on the floor, but you know, I'm not happy with the way this is done, and I hope that in your work at regional council, maybe you can speak with councillors and ministers and see if we can figure this out to make it a bit more fair.
Thank you, Councillor, and we'll call a vote. I'm going to my comments are that if Georgina has 2, perhaps the model should be a minimum 2 per municipality, and then build it on attendance after that. And obviously the reasons for having 2 are that there would be an alternate, and but I appreciate that the region doesn't want to have a full council chamber. I think that's one of the reasons why they don't do it, is they don't want to have 30 seating. It is a bit of a conundrum. I'll ask the clerk to set up the vote. If there's nothing else, here we go. And I'll pass the chair back to the mayor.
Motion is defeated. Thank you very much, Councillor Abel, for taking that. Council, that finishes the regular items. We have no motions. There is no regional report. We'll go to new business. Councillor Perry, start with you. Councillor Kim. Councillor Tom, new business. Okay, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Abel, under new business. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson, please.
First off, you know, I'm very supportive of all the hard work that the clerk staff has put into this system, but it concerns me that week after week we continue to run into issues that really do not put us in the best light for those attending or watching. And so while I've been patient as we work through them, you know, I think that we're still a long way off. And, you know, we have technical staff here all the time. There's a cost associated with it. And my preference is that we go back to the way it was until these issues get resolved and the system works flawlessly before we continue on in this. And that's my own preference.
Okay, and I'll ask you to put a motion on the floor, but just before we do that, I'll go to the clerk and I mean, others have mentioned this to you, Mr. Clerk, offline, if you will. Councillor Thompson has brought it up in public. Can you give us a sense of when we can expect a smoothly operating system, which by any imagination this does not cover?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know we're working on, I couldn't give a final date for a full
fully functional system the way council wants it. I will say that, you know, with an electronic system, when we're typing in amendments, there's going to be a little bit of a lag in terms of just getting it from when you say it to it being in front of you. We're always going to have a lag with any electronic system. You know, I will be the first to admit that the lag has been too long, but you know, we are working on things. We put out an amendment cheat sheet to council to try and get any amendments we can loaded into the system before the meeting, so we can be quicker at getting them on the screen. But in terms of you know, right off the bat amendments, or you know, amendments that are just coming out of nowhere, yes, those are going to be a little bit longer, but we're working with the vendor to try and make it seamless.
I'd like to just add one more thing.
Yep.
So I want to be clear. I think staff are doing incredible work. I think they're challenged under difficult circumstances. I think they're trying to cope their best and work as quickly as possible. And my issue is not so much with staff, but I just think there are some inherent issues that I see with the particular software in terms of timing out issues, in terms of some freezing that we've had and stuff, and staff can't help that issue. I think there's those kinks need to be worked out with the software vendor, and in the interim, while those kinks are being worked out with the software vendor, then let's you know, soldier on using the tried and true old-fashioned way that we always have, and once they get worked out, then let's reintroduce the system. But by no means, you know, I don't want this to come across that I don't think staff are trying their absolute best to make it work, but what I hear and what I see are that there are, let's say, routines or issues that the software vendor must address and either reprogram, rewrite, or develop to meet our needs. And while that's going on, you know, I don't think that we and anybody else should have to watch us fumble around or wait for things to happen. And so I just don't think it casts us in a good light. And so, you know, that's my preference, is to go the other way.
Specifically, Councillor Thompson, what would you like to see? We go back to the regular voting, or?
Yeah, I think, you know, you just roll the clock back 6 months in the way we used to do it. And that includes the button for the speaker, for the microphone too.
Different system.
But
okay, so I will ask your indulgence. I'll get together with the clerk this week, and we'll come back to Council GC next week with a bit of an update. How's that?
That's fine for me.
2 weeks. We don't have a meeting next week. Is that acceptable?
For me, it is.
Okay.
I can only speak for myself.
Okay, fair enough. Is the rest of council okay with that? Well, we're not. There's nothing really to debate. I'm just asking that question on what you said. Okay, Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, we all have comments. We've made them offline, whether we've formalized them in an email. I mean, would emails to the clerk be on suggestions or preferences be?
Yep, good. That would be great.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. The rest of council okay with that process? And then we'll be back to you. That's the royal we, because it'll be the clerk. We'll be back to you with a bit of an action plan. How's that? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thompson, for bringing that up. Councillor Gardner, under new business. Councillor Maracas, under new business. Councillor Maracas, if I may start with you with public service announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sure we all heard the press release in regards to the reforms to the OMB and the changes that could possibly be upcoming with a bill being put forward in the next couple of weeks. I just want to take a minute to thank the 17 elected officials that decided to come along with Councillor Thompson and I and work together to effect real change, to not only in our own communities but across the province. It really shows that even though that many thought that we could not achieve any real change, that no one would listen to us, we showed that when you work hard and work together, you can achieve real results. So I just wanted to give a bravo to all the elected leaders throughout the province that endorsed the motion and participated in the Municipal Summit on OMB reform and advocated for this much needed change. And I just also wanted to mention that I'm very proud that this change started here in Aurora with a motion to look at the scope and jurisdiction of the OMB. And so I'm very proud of this council moving forward.
Thank you, Councilor Maracus. Councilor Gartner, public service announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it's 15 years since the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan, a little bit more than 15 years, was put in place by the province. And I'd just like to say that it was a very important step in protecting an environmental feature that filters and recharges the water that we drink. And it is all about the water, and it is going to be all about the water in the future. There's something else. It's called the New Horizons Band of York Region, and it's for active adults who want to learn music. So for all those people who weren't forced to take music lessons when they were growing up, like me, if they do want to learn how to play music with other adults, it's an interesting idea and an interesting opportunity. So I don't have either the website or the email address. The first concert is going to be on May 25th. But I find it a fascinating idea, and I thank Doug Roberts for thinking of it. Doug Robertson. And so if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'll give them the information I have.
Okay. Councilor Thompson.
We've all gotten the internal memo, but I just thought I would also make mention of the New Beginnings Powwow in Aurora on June 3rd. Certainly, I think that it's going to be one of the signature events for the 150th celebration. And so for those that are interested, I'm sure there'll be lots of information on the website.
Thank you. Councilor Abel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and we're all looking forward to the Chamber event on June 4th, our fabulous street festival, which attracts probably 40,000 people. This year there's an event called Open Streets, and it features a 3-on-3 basketball tournament on Victoria Street, and there'll be other Activate Aurora demonstrations, pickleball, yoga. There'll also be a Porch Fest, which will feature local artists on the porches on Mosley Street, and it's a partnership with some of the organizations, the Chamber to speak of as one, and North York Basketball Association, Senior Center, Music Aurora. So it looks like it's going to be just another great event, and extended along Mosley Street into our cultural precinct. So it should be a very interesting day. So hope everyone can join us.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphries.
Just to, again, remind everyone, our Aurora Farmers Market and Artisan Fair this Saturday, 27th, 8 to 1 p.m., Town Park. Vendors are incredible, and enjoy the farmers market. And as well, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if you were going to mention this, but the Community Recognition Awards are coming up on May 29th to recognize our volunteers and special awards. Looking forward to a great evening. Councillor Maracus is the chair of the Community Recognition Committee, and looking forward to a great night, and congratulations to all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to quickly acknowledge that yesterday was Victoria Day, and I'm sure all Aurorans, as well as all Canadians, enjoyed a day off to celebrate the official birthday of the Queen of Canada, Her Majesty Elizabeth II. And I'd also just like to extend my thanks and felicitations to her for her official birthday. And I'm looking forward to another great year of Elizabeth II, our reigning monarch. So that's all for now.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Kim.
I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Perry? Well, you can tell it's spring because I've got a whole list here. We have an e-waste event this Saturday at the Operations Center, Industrial Parkway North. So old computers, phones, televisions. It's amazing how many old sets still come in. Tube sets. Didn't think there were any more out there. The Aurora Garden Club and Home Hardware Building Supply are having a plant sale, and that is Sunday, May the 28th at the Home Hardware Store just out here on Wellington. Doors Open Aurora is still looking for participating sites, and we would like you to email the planning department, planning@aurora.ca, by Wednesday, May 31st. And just as a sidebar, Toronto's having their doors open, I think, this weekend. And I had a sneak preview of a couple of the new subway sites on the York-Spadina subway extension past week, which will be on the tour. So if you have an opportunity, they're pretty, you can understand why they spend so much money, but they're pretty spectacular. We're having a new budget procedure this year, so we have budget consultation meeting. It's going to be held Wednesday, May the 31st at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. So I've already talked to a number of people who will be bringing forward their proposal. We would like to have that, we need to have that in, pardon me, by Thursday, May the 25th at 4:30 p.m. We're still looking for applications for the John West Memorial Scholarship, Leaders for Tomorrow, and that's on our website. June the 3rd, Councillor Abel mentioned the New Beginnings Powwow. We're also having down at Shepherd's Bush, the Pause in the Park. That's the second year for that event. It proved very successful, very popular last year. Seniors Active Living Fair is on Thursday, June the 8th. Are you Aurora's next teen idol? Apparently I'm not, but we'd like to have you registered by June the 9th. So that's in a couple of weeks. And lastly, but not least, the town seeking the youth members between the ages of 12 to 17 to serve on our Youth Engagement Committee. And you can see from Shelley's presentation earlier that they were part of some of the work that she's been doing. So we certainly appreciate everything that that department does for us. So thank you very much, Council. That is it. If I may please have our bylaws. Someone put the bylaw, Council. Councilor Maracas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add in about the Community Recognition Awards. We're all scheduled to present certain awards, so I just want to, if anyone is not able to make it, can they please get in contact with Shelley and let her know, or maybe even Stephanie, just so they can change up the scheduling and make sure that the day goes smoothly. So I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bylaws? So just a confirming bylaw, Mr. Clerk? Yeah, I think there is. No, there's one bylaw, and then there's someone put that on the floor, please. Councilors Thompson and Maracas. Linda, you open the vote, please. No, we don't. Just hands. We're just doing hands. On the bylaw. Hand vote. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Peary, Councillor Tom. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Abel, Councillor Gartner. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, Council. Thank you, staff.